Pork
Shout
chop
out
sandwiches.
Buffalo, never ducking low. What's that from?
The Weeknd's latest EP.
No, close, but no cigar. Same city.
Good Kid, Mad City?
No, that's
Same city. What city is the
Kendrick
Weeknd
Lamar. Is from L.A., Compton.
from? Okay.
The Weeknd is from Toronto. He's from the 6.
6.
The song that I was referencing. Shout out Buffalo, never ducking low. That's Drake. That's Drizzy.
Why is he shouting out Buffalo? What did
I don't know.
Buffalo ever do
Why
for
does
Drake?
Why does he shout out John Calipari in songs? I have no idea.
He's like a father to him.
Yeah, but why?
Did you listen to the Coach Cal podcast?
Yeah, but why?
You know,
He's just a guy.
I just imagine, because Coach Cal's podcast has been on hiatus for a long time.
Has it really? I
Yeah.
would never know.
And so I had this
Until he has Drake on again, I would never know.
I had this funny instance in my head that like I could hear your voice coaching Coach Cal. Just make content. Just do it.
Should we do a after Cal?
No.
After Coach?
If we were to ever do an after show for sports, it would have to be Le Batard.
Well, I'm
Exactly.
definitely not.
Exactly.
You and does Cody Ray Hecker, does he listen to Le Batard?
I have an entire group text dedicated to Dan Le Batard.
Do you still talk to Cody?
I actually tried to include him in a separate version of the group text, and he said unsubscribe. I said fuck you, and then I went back to the old group text.
Why did he do that?
Because
Is he salty now?
Because he's
He
just
sent me a Snapchat the other day.
Of what?
He was like,
Was he in Frankfurt?
oh, he had AirPods in. He said, am I as cool as Jay now?
He was probably in Frankfurt. That's what he does. He sends me snaps teasing me that he's in Frankfurt but not hanging out with me because he's with his family or whatever.
We're your family.
If you don't know, we're talking about a mutual friend.
Why did I say
Cody
that?
Hecker.
Like Christian Bale's
It's-
Batman. We're your family.
We have an inside joke on Sight and Sound that Cody Ray Hecker, it's someone we love to podcast
Fear
with.
me.
He will never ever be on the show because he is just one of those. He's just one of those examples. A friend that gets married and then you just
Does he have
never.
Facebook?
Yeah,
Have we actually sent him a Facebook group request to be? You know what? I think when we.
he's in the group.
Are you serious?
I guarantee. Yeah, he's in the group, and I guarantee he shut off the notifications. I guarantee it.
Does this person, does he have a relationship with Eric?
They have no reason to talk unless I'm around.
Has Cody Ray Hecker and Ryan Uchi ever interacted with one another?
They are big fans of it. They used to text each other in high school.
Oh, was he?
Like they wouldn't hang out.
Was
but-
Ryan Uchi his Jay back
Well,
then?
Ryan Uchi, you know how Ryan Uchi is the same entity to everyone he meets? Like everyone thinks of Ryan Uchi the exact same way. So Cody, obviously, he had a sense of humor about having this texting relationship with Ryan.
Instead of texting me, he decides to text me via Snapchat.
Right.
Why does he still do that?
I don't know.
I don't think he
Well,
hasn't done it in a
there
while.
for a while, you were like the Snapchat brand ambassador.
Was
like,
I really?
I had fallen off of Snapchat.
Yeah.
And you were the only person. Well, this might just speak to me and my relationships right now, but you would be the only person that would send me snaps, and I used to get annoyed with it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
You were the only person that consistently snapped me.
Holy shit. I was on
But that was
Snapchat
also
game.
a long time ago. You haven't been on Snapchat
Yeah.
in a while.
Yeah.
I'm only on Snapchat with my Tinder peeps.
I think from now on with social media, I'm going to start taking up this mantle of being like Gary Vee when something takes off. Yeah, I've been on Vero for a minute. Yeah, we're actually working on the Vero studio right now.
Gary Vee's the best. He's just so funny to laugh
Just
at.
start posting.
We say it all the time, but he's so
Yeah.
funny.
He really is. I love him though, not hating.
No, I'm not hating.
Much
I just-
respect.
I have a sense of humor about it.
Many props. Did a few things this week that I don't normally do.
Okay.
Want to hear about them?
No,
I was
but
going to
I'm
lunch
sure
one
our
day.
listeners do.
I was going to lunch one day at work. It's a stressful time because I only got 30 minutes, right?
Don't you go to the salad bar at Kroger?
Sometimes I just come home and don't eat, but because I run out of time, I have to walk the dog,
Isn't
extract fecal matter from his anus.
Isn't it weird when you have like 30 minutes for a lunch break and you go home for whatever reason? to and from work always takes 15 minutes.
Yes.
So it's like
Yes.
beat the clock the second you walk into that
Yes.
front door. It's so weird.
Yes.
An hour lunch feels like all the time in the world. But when it's only a 30,
Yeah.
if you go through a drive-through, you already have to go back to work.
I
It's so
agree.
weird.
What the fuck, time? No, so the other day I was going to lunch, and even though I was rushing to do this, was walking out with a coworker who just had a kid, and for whatever reason, Papa J decided to just go completely out of character and said, "How's your kid doing?" I don't fucking care. I don't want to know how their kid is.
What was the reason?
I don't know.
Was it some kind of maybe I should change my ways?
No.
Maybe I should act like
It had nothing to do with that. We were awkwardly walking out together, and I thought we were walking down the same hallway together. It's a pretty long hallway. We're just gonna sit there in silence. I could have got out my phone, I guess, but instead I broke the silence with asking a question that I legitimately didn't care about.
So that was stored in your word bank. You had nothing. You had to fill some time, and you just turned over the wrong card. The unfortunate
in my
card.
brain, what was going on was, oh shit, this is going to be really awkward. Think of something to talk about. And I went there. I was, you don't believe in karma, but karma came back to me because she went down a different hallway. So I didn't even have to do it to begin with. In fact, she was trying to get away from me as quickly as possible, which is fine. It is what it is. I don't want to know how your kids are. I just don't.
You want to know what I did last night?
Play with kids.
I
played Fortnite.
I played Fortnite
Of course you
with
did.
our boy Jaye in our Facebook group.
Oh, yeah? How was
And
that?
it was the first time that we had really gotten to talk. It was a great time, and I'm shocked that he played with me as long as he did because he's clearly better at Fortnite than I am.
Yeah, of course.
And we were on a team. We weren't on a team. We're still in a free for all, but we played squads. So that's the game mode. It's us two exactly, and I'm so thankful he just seemed to not care how bad I was or how badly I was bringing us down. And we played for several hours, man. It was a good time, and it was good getting to know him. I was a little self-conscious because he was
He lives in California?
He is from Fremont, California, so Northern California.
Yeah, close to
And
the Bay.
he goes
Actually, I think
to
it technically is a part
he goes
of the
to
Bay.
Arizona State College. He's a freshman at
Okay.
Arizona State. So he was telling me a little bit about that. And I was a little self-conscious of the conversation because, I mean, to be totally fair, it was the first time I'd really interacted with
A fan. A listener.
I wouldn't. Well, a listener. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He's not a fan. We don't like to use that word.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was the first time that I had interacted with a stranger, I'll say, from the Facebook group in that way. So I was self-conscious because, I mean, we were talking. He was asking me a lot of questions. Part of me was like, "Am I asking enough? Like, I feel bad."
Oh, yeah?
Like, I didn't want him to just be the one asking questions.
Did he ask any juicy questions?
Yeah,
did.
I told him things I shouldn't.
Was it about people that we do some work for?
Yeah,
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Ryan Snelling and Jaye Williams, a couple chatty Cathys up in here. I'll tell you what.
If it gets out, if the news gets out, we know who to point to.
Hey.
It's Shinoda.
Hey, there's some secrets we keep.
Yeah. He has to
But-
really.
But we some chatty Cathys for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
All you have to do is ask, and I'm just like, yeah, this is what's happening.
Oh, what? You want to know things about me?
Yeah. I also told him. I told him things that. I told him other secrets that didn't have anything to do with us.
Talk shit about me?
No. I'm trying to think of what he asked with you. I think he asked how much time we
Where does
spent
Jay
together.
work?
He asked how much time we spent together. I said I see him once or twice a week, but
So Carl, shout out to Carl.
I'm not done
just
yet.
wait, this is related. He texted me. He said, "Do you still have your Xbox?" I said, "Yeah." Oh, dude, we should play Fortnite together. Just ignored it. Just didn't even answer. Didn't even answer the question.
I've been playing a lot of Fortnite, and I realized
Carl?
this. No, I came to this. I came to this conclusion playing last night with Jaye. I only turn on that game and repeatedly play it. I am playing to just get killed, and I don't understand it. I'm addicted to just getting killed.
Can I
because
do
I'm
some
not good
armchair
at the game.
analysis though? You do play video games. You're not a gamer, right?
You say that, but it's me like sitting on Grand Theft Auto and maybe Assassin's Creed, but it's not like
you participate in the games, right? If I had to make an assumption, I would say that you just like getting on there and just aimlessly turning off your brain to just fucking do whatever, right? Because even sitting down and watching TV and anything pop culture related, I feel like my brain is still turning like, oh, should I make a video about this? What do I think about this? What take could I possibly give on this? So I think something like video games is a good way, to actually relax. That's what I always use when I would play FIFA. I mean, I just do it just to fucking just chill out, man. You know.
I mean, I guess there is an element. I'm trying to get better at it. I'm trying to see if I get better game to game, but it's so hard because there's so many variables and they all seem to be against me. But anyway, the thing that I was going to, you made me forget where I was going.
Of course
I
did.
Damn it!
You're welcome. Probably wasn't that entertaining. Anyways.
I do remember. He was asking me a lot of Kentucky questions, and one of them I just couldn't answer.
I like that.
I had no idea what to say. He asked me,
"What do horses smell like?"
about our cuisine. So I was trying to think of things that are specifically. I need to go to you because you can do this better than I can. What food or drink is specific to Kentucky? And he asked me that question, and my answer was like, I guess a lot of fried chicken. But if you go to KFC, that's everywhere now. I knew that wasn't a good answer.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time, and eventually I randomly got to, the Kentucky hot brown is something that I feel like originated here. I guess I could have brought up bourbon, like bourbon being Kentucky whiskey. I mean, bourbon is only bourbon in Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean you've got Ale 8 obviously.
I should have gone to Ale 8.
I mean, a lot of local beers now. Actually, yeah, I mean you're right, bourbon in general, but a lot of local beers now are becoming a little bit more well known. The mint julep drink of the Derby. In terms of food, it's a little bit harder to nail down, but we actually have a pretty interesting standard barbecue recipe here in Kentucky. It's just like a straight up sweet barbecue. Like we don't really dabble. Like if we dabble in other things, it's labeled that way. Like this is a North Carolina barbecue. This is a Texas barbecue. Other than that, I don't think we really have a ton of really iconic things that we're known for from a cuisine standpoint. Well, I do know, and what I can say specifically about the type of food we eat here in Kentucky, a lot of it is just general Southern type of cooking.
Right.
A lot of fried corn, mashed potatoes, green beans done in like lard or something like that.
I would have gone to, and I thought of that. Yeah. I didn't say it, but I didn't know if that was unique to us or if people ate like that everywhere. Is it?
Yeah. Well, particularly like, I mean, a lot of Southern cooking is like that. I mean, okra, greens, and
but I never like really was. I don't eat okra, so
well, I don't really eat okra either. But
he asked me, "Do you really eat out like every meal?" I said, "Yeah." I was like, I pretty much just go through the drive-thru every meal. I mean, like a Qdoba or something like that.
I mean, I eat out every meal. I don't eat out fast food every meal, but like tonight we went to a place called Minglewood, and I had a blackberry barbecue burger. It was delicious.
I have been trying to cut back on spending a little bit, mainly because like right here, right now,
it's tax season.
It's not only is it tax season, but I had car insurance like just falling in my lap, and that comes around every 6 months. And
do you have a month of the year that's like the dark period for you financially, where it's like it just seems like this is the worst month?
It's anytime car insurance comes up because it's not frequent. It's twice a year.
Okay.
So it's
I don't know when my car insurance
it's October and March, and it's like $400. So
yeah, I don't think I have. I think my car insurance is monthly.
Yeah,
strange. My month is always October, which is strange because it comes. It's actually sucks ass because it comes right after my birthday when I get some money typically.
Right,
it comes before the holidays, so that's always really stressful. And it's like in a weird, I get a summer bonus and a Christmas bonus, so it comes in between that. But for whatever reason, I got some wild hair up my ass one year or over the course of many years and decided to I guess, subscribe to a bunch of annual things like our Podbean. Well, our Podbean thing comes out every month, but
Yeah.
there are just certain things. Like I think the sightsoundpod.com is just one thing that like comes out in October. And there's a bunch of those all at once. And it's just like, holy shit. And October is also the month that I have to pay the title for my car. That's expensive.
Right.
It's just, it's not a good month for Papa J.
It's actually been this month, now that you bring it up, because not only did I have car insurance, but I had an issue with Walmart because I had
Oh yeah, is that still going on?
my Walmart credit card,
Holy shit!
but I still spend on it. Like I
Okay.
frequently use it, so I'm just consistently paying on it. I do that purely for my credit. So anyway, I have recurring payments set up. So it was like it just automatically took $100 out every month. But because I was cutting back on money this past couple months, I changed it to the minimum payment, which is like what, $38 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I removed the $100 recurring payment and then edited it to $38. But it took it as I canceled the recurring payment for 1 month and I'm setting it up for the next month. Didn't know that. So it accrued a late fee and I was charged out the wazoo.
Yeah.
Had that sorted out. Then my medical bills that I'm still paying on right now, they transferred their billing service and somehow it got lost in the shuffle and
Right.
it went straight to a collector.
Isn't
even
that
though
crazy?
And so I called them and just ripped titties. I was so furious. And they were like, yeah, we're getting a lot of calls about, and we know this is inconvenient because they had me thinking that I had to pay like $700 or some shit when I had been. So the past month financially has been a nightmare, but thankfully I get paid weekly. So that does help me a lot.
That's good. I get paid weekly too. It's very nice. It's easier,
great.
I think, to adjust your budget a little bit.
Yeah.
I have to pee already.
Do you really have to pee, or are you doing that thing where you have to pause just because Kayla's home?
Well, Kayla is home.
But does
so
that
that's
mean
a
we have
part
to
of it.
pause?
I mean, I really do have to pee, like really, really bad. So let's take a quick break so I can relieve my bladder. I guess it's that coffee. Actually, I didn't tell you this, but
Coffee's supposed to make you shit.
well, it's a diuretic. It's supposed to make you pee as well.
Diuretic that makes you shit.
I also had 2 cocktails before we did this, so I'm
Jay!
wasted right now.
Oh,
I'm hammered.
damn it,
So
Jay!
drunk. I'm drunked. All right, we'll be right back. We love all of our Sight and Sound listeners. Now, I'm saying listeners with extra emphasis because if you aren't subscribed to the Sight and Sound YouTube channel, you're missing out on a huge chunk of Sight and Sound content. Ryan is holding it down with all of his movie stuff. I've got album reviews and retro reviews. We've even introduced some new video shows as well. Ryan and I are both doing trailer and music video reactions, and I just introduced a new music discussion video series called Sound Off. Go ahead and complete the Sight and Sound content cycle and subscribe to the Sight and Sound YouTube channel, link in the description box of this podcast. So we did a thing last week that I was self-conscious about it. I was self-conscious about it all week. I was self-conscious about it when we were recording. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about last week's episode. When we were doing it, it was as if we, for some reason, like switched bodies, because I'm normally the guy that's just like, throw the structure to the wind. Let's just do whatever. You like things to be a little bit more neat and tidy. Not only that, but you came in to the podcast just dropping bombs about how you're working at Dollar General. No care in the world. So I was just like, was it the whole time? The thing I had anxiety last week. Like while we were doing, that's another reason why we switched roles.
Pussy.
I had anxiety because while we were going, I was trying to figure out like, is this an after party or is this weekly? So I'd be like, how about the new Star Wars movie, huh? Huh? How about that? Huh? So after it was all said and done, I think I kind of took the temperature from some people, and I think it worked out kind of well.
I was going to say, I think people like it.
I think they do too.
I just think it works so well because I think people enjoy us just enjoying each other, but it also helps us just cram everything that we want to talk about, as opposed to like there have been Sight and Sound Weekly episodes where we restrict it to 3, but we kind of push or cram one more in, even though we want it to be 3 main topics. So
and I'm sure those episodes will come back at some point.
Yeah.
Or at least I'm sure there's going to be weeks where we just focus on one specific movie topic because it's so fucking big to do. But it also is definitely going to work out this week because I don't know what happened. It seems like there was just a ridiculous amount of pop culture news to talk about this week.
I really keep forgetting how much we had to talk about with television. Like
I'm that way with music. I had a music topic towards the beginning of the week that I was going to bring onto the show. So many other things happened between then and now that it got relegated to just me casually mentioning it on the music show. Like I was just like, this thing happened. But it has to do with Apple killing iTunes music downloads.
Yeah.
What's up with that? I don't know anything about it other than just that.
Do you know anybody that still buys albums that way?
That's what I brought.
Still. Do you know anybody that still buys albums that way? That felt weird to me.
I think Joe Rogan still does it.
Personally.
Joe Rogan. So I actually brought this up on the music show, just that I'm sort of curious as to what the ranking is in terms of people being music consumers. Like obviously the streaming services is the number one. And this news story just came out a couple weeks ago saying that music streaming provided the music and the record industry's most successful year in a decade, which is crazy because that's the antithesis of the conversation that we hear from people most of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that has to do with them canceling this thing, but I was sort of wondering, like, I feel like the next level down for people buying music, actually buying it, not streaming it, to me, I'm sure there's people out there that do download things, but I feel like it's vinyl, right? Like vinyl sales are really up. They're as high as they've been in a really, really long time. And I just feel like if you're going to actually buy music, why wouldn't you want to actually buy the most physical thing that you possibly could? You own vinyl.
Yeah, for whatever reason. I
just gave it to you.
From a consumer standpoint, I don't think it's going to affect much at all. If you have Apple Music, just turn on the subscription service for the exact same amount as one out. Like, I think the transference of that kind of account will go over smoothly. But I'm anticipating
use iTunes. Why the fuck wouldn't you use?
I know.
That's
exactly
what I don't get.
What I'm saying is I'm anticipating backlash from artists here because think about it. At least Spotify doesn't. Spotify is just purely streaming, but at least Apple, at least iTunes gave you the option. Amazon gives you the option. Google Music gives you the option. If Apple starts this, are the others going to follow suit? Does that mean that artists are no longer going to get their entire albums sold in that particular way? Because that gives artists a reason to be pissed.
Here's a reason why this is sort of a big blow, I think, to actually buying music is the fact that I think a lot of people who were buying music on iTunes were just doing it because it was convenient, right? When this whole new revolution of music listening with MP3s, and a lot of people had iPods, right? A lot of people had iPods, which meant a lot of people had iTunes.
I had a Dell DJ first.
Okay. A lot of people had iPods, then a lot of people had iTunes. So naturally they would buy their music from iTunes. And that was a huge thing back in the day when iTunes essentially really did give like the last big push to the old model of music. And yeah, I mean, the fact that it's just not going to conveniently be there for people is a little bit strange. I think from a business perspective, it makes sense for Apple to have somebody locked into a subscription service unless they just decide to jump ship somewhere else. Fascinatingly enough, I haven't heard much of anything about this from major record labels, and I don't know what say they have in it. I mean, it seems like Apple themselves would have the right to just be like, "Oh, we're not going to do this anymore." But, you know, since streaming has existed, and even though people are outspoken about it, the record industry still operates with the streaming platform, and they make money, right? They can't, even though they want things to go back to the old model, they still have to figure out a way to make it work right now.
Right.
But they're just trying to push this other agenda. We're also coming up on, I haven't brought this up at all in anything Sight and Sound related, but are you aware that we're facing new copyright legislation coming up really, really soon? Is it
good or bad?
It's kind of a good thing. So I think it's a Republican from Alabama, maybe, is basically pushing.
Sounds about right.
pushing along a bipartisan bill of some sort that will essentially reform. I think it's either just copyright in general, or it might just be specifically to the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And what it would do is it would basically make it much easier to figure out who should get paid for music stuff. As it is right now, there's just like your dollar is distributed through a bunch of people. This would essentially do that same thing, but they wouldn't have these residual rights over a certain amount of time. Like, for instance, if you were sitting in a room with me while I was recording a song and you said, "Oh, you should make it go ba-da-da-da," you could potentially have some sort of songwriting
claim to the
exactly. And what happens is, maybe a song blows up 30 years down the road and you're like, well, I need my money now. Well, now there's like a grace period of like, if your money goes unclaimed, you're just completely written out. And I'm sort of giving a very broad description of it, but a lot of the power maybe not necessarily a lot of the power, but in this new bill, streaming services, including YouTube, which is technically a streaming service, will have heavy, heavy protection from any sort of lawsuit going on. I think I'm not 100% on it, so I'm not going to speak to it.
Wait.
Yeah.
So it's worse for the creator if there is action involved.
No. So no. They're just saying, what do you mean action?
I thought you said the corporations would have heavy protection against people who violated copyright law.
No. They will have protection from lawsuits. So the music industry.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, the music industry is suing the shit out of YouTube right now because they're not necessarily suing the shit out of them, but putting a lot of pressure on YouTube because so much business is done on YouTube, and the record industry feels like they should have more money for it, which just doesn't work like that. But anyways, so a lot of people, some people might sue YouTube, whatever the case may be. Because they're a distribution service, they would have the additional protection there. I think there's something that happens where if music is distributed there, it either has to be uploaded by the content creator, or maybe in some other instances like Spotify and Apple Music, it needs to be paid for, right? Things that make sense. Things that just straight up make sense. And like right now, I don't think it's the artists that are necessarily doing some of the suing, but like there was an instance recently where Spotify was being sued by songwriters of people you never even fucking heard of before. It's just like, well, I wrote a part of this song and I didn't sign off for it to be on Spotify, so you guys owe me royalties. That's what I'm saying. The people who are jumping on this shit way late. It's just basically it's a bill that needed to be updated. It's outdated. It doesn't take into consideration the current model. So that's interesting. I don't really have an opinion on it one way or the other.
Well, I don't
wrap my head around it.
When it goes back to the iTunes stuff, it doesn't affect me at all. I don't think it's going to be a problem for the consumer to switch over that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already where they're going, where we're all going anyway, where we have been.
The weirdest thing for me is just simply how it's branded. iTunes is iTunes is still the place where you go to buy your movies and TV, which is a huge part in Apple's business model right now, massive part. So it's like, are you still going to be doing that? Like, if you don't have any fucking music, why is it called iTunes? I don't know. It's strange, but it doesn't seem like it would be smart to rebrand. I don't know.
Let's talk about some YouTube bullshit, because I uploaded the Last Jedi commentary if for those of you who don't know, I did a Last Jedi commentary. It's up on the YouTube channel and podcast feed. And what happened was those video files are so big that I typically upload them overnight and then let them post whenever they're done because they take so long. So I do it while I'm asleep. And when I woke up, it just wasn't there. Found that hilarious email that the video had been banned worldwide. And it was the first time that I had ever received that before. And Disney gave me the chunk that violated their whatever.
I didn't know that.
They told me the timestamp.
I didn't know that.
So it was like an hour 25 to an hour 27. And it was because I was sitting there in silence and you could hear my TV. And we talked about it, but it was like a scene with Finn and DJ on the ship when he tells them about war profiteering.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
For one, it is absolutely absurd. I don't give a fuck. It is absolutely absurd for any corporation to think that what I did is
infringing upon. Yeah.
Yes, on paper, I violated something because you can hear.
Technically, you didn't, but okay.
But it's just really stupid to think that, like, because the whole point of it is they think that someone who comes across that video is going to abuse getting to have The Last Jedi in a video stream, even though the camera's pointed on me and it's a very low volume on a TV in the background. It's like nobody can get anything out of that, yet you feel the need to ban my video worldwide. So not only is that, I found it insanely ridiculous that was the portion that they had an issue with, especially when at the beginning of the video, I jokingly put my mic up to the television when the music kicks in at the very beginning so that people can sync up their movie with my commentary. Had nothing to say about that.
Right.
The John Williams score, they went to an hour 25 when there's a dialogue scene between
I just want to know if somebody was sitting there listening to the whole thing like, motherfucker better not slip. I dare. Disney was like, I dare this motherfucker to please have some audio in this thing.
So
for me to ban your fucking ass.
I had to edit it. And basically, I was looking through my audio track and any gap at all, which were several, obviously. I'm not talking for 2.5 hours straight. Right. I could probably do it, but I didn't this particular time. And I just lowered the volume all the way to 0.
Yeah.
And it was so annoying. Had to do it over again. And they have nothing, even though I did not change the music.
Yeah.
The beginning portion, I didn't change it at all. And they have nothing to say about it.
So in a semi-related thing, for those that don't know, I uploaded the second episode of More Than Music this past week. Or a week or so ago. But the big difference between this week and or this episode and last episode is I actually I had sent the Bon Iver episode to Brando. This is related, by the way. So I sent the Bon Iver episode to Brando, and he had mentioned like, oh, it'd be great if you could add in music to like so people can reference what it is you're talking about. And I said, yeah, you know what, man, I hear you 100%. I would love to do that. Just some weird areas to dance around if we do that. This episode that I did for Converge, there was no way I could have possibly told this story without including specific examples of music. And I did this thing back in the Galaxy when I was doing In the Galaxy, and we would use music sometimes there.
Are you not doing In the Galaxy?
I am, but Michael's moving to LA, and we're like a couple weeks past. But anyways, I would dig deep, and I would put a disclaimer where I actually copied the law and put it in the description. I'm going to read it verbatim so people can actually hear what it says. It's just a short little blurb. Sight and Sound does not own any of the copyright material in this content or any of our content. Any copyright protected material used in this episode is done so under the provision of fair use. In U.S. copyright law, the doctrine that brief excerpts of copyright material may, under certain circumstances, be quoted verbatim for purposes such as criticism, news reporting, teaching, and research without the need for permission from or payment to the copyright holder. Boom. That is protected in law.
Right.
But yet people still threaten people all the time with takedown notices and this and that.
Chris Stuckman and our boy Jonathan Paula, they
Yes.
speak to this a lot. Did you see Stuckman going crazy because Universal Studios just like flagged all of his videos regarding any Universal movie?
No, was this recently?
Yeah.
Oh,
like
I had
he
no
did it
idea.
like the other day. And then John Bailey, who is the epic voice of Honest Trailers, that guy, he reviews stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which studio it was. Maybe it was Universal. They flagged one of his videos for including their content, like putting in a trailer footage of the movie, blah, blah, blah. He put it on his Instagram story. He filmed his video and scrubbed through it. Every single frame of his video is something he created, whether it's just a camera on him talking or the opening, the opening visual or whatever it is. There wasn't a single frame of the movie that he was speaking to, yet for whatever reason they just flagged it. And I have to think that that's exhausting for people like Stuckman who have all those videos and all that traffic. They have to fight so much with the studios.
So here's what I'm,
and God forbid there's a YouTuber who is promoting your fucking movie.
Yeah.
Jesus
and not
Christ.
to mention, like I've just read, they're protected. But it's the threat, the fear that they're trying. It's not even really a threat or fear. It's just making it incredibly difficult for them to do what they need to do. So, what's funny is we haven't received a notice for the Converge thing that I did. I actually monetized it too. So we'll see. We'll see what happens if that goes through.
Does that change it though? The fact that you
no, it shouldn't.
It's just like the fact that you monetize doesn't negate your disclaimer.
Not at all. Not at all. Because it's still no, that doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just it's protecting you as a reviewer, as an educator, in order to do what you need to do. There is a part of that whole thing that says as long as this is not creating a falsified view of something. Like if I were to talk about, we'll talk more about this later, that Disney buying Fox and all that shit. If I were to talk about like 100% Disney pulled the plug on Deadpool, here's a clip from, well, I don't know if that's true. So yeah, that would be a huge issue. But anyways, going back to this whole thing, the whole flagging thing from Universal, are those actual takedown notices that they're getting, or are they just demonetizing videos?
I think it's demonetization.
Right.
But
And that's a big deal for somebody who's trying to make their career out of doing YouTube.
It's also just completely unwarranted.
Right, of course.
I mean, it's just bullshit.
I wonder sometimes like how Collider gets by with
I don't
so
know.
much of their content.
They put all the music in the Schmodown?
Well,
How?
not just the music. Well, they might have a license. They could potentially have a license. Like you can, if we went out today and bought, it's pretty expensive. But if we went out and bought a license, like ASCAP license or what's the other one, BMI, which is basically the licensing for all music, we could put whatever music we could do a fucking radio show. Like if we wanted to, it just wouldn't be a big deal. Because we would have a license. Maybe they have something like that. But even like in Movie Talk, they have video footage from things playing.
They have the climax of Black Panther playing during Movie Talk.
So do they have agreements with companies already? Or that's what I'm kind of curious about.
I do think it's funny what videos, like going back to this entire point, it's hilarious how so many YouTubers can put up like entire video essays and have an entire movie scene play out. Yeah, it's the movie reviews that get flagged so often. It's just bullshit. Isn't the internet supposed to change next month with the whole the law, the thing that happened? It was voted on.
Net neutrality?
Yeah, it's supposed to be April unless there's another vote on it. It's supposed to be next month.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Scary.
Yeah, I mean, well, just because we don't necessarily know what's going to happen. I mean, if anything of substance was going to take place, it would basically be one day, like you would notice something if one day you were doing your business on the internet and the next day you were going on the internet and things just weren't happening. Like, let's say Netflix just started buffering way more, like that would be an issue. Obviously, that would be a huge issue. I'm sort of skeptical as if whether or not some of these companies are going to take advantage of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, as much as they are, like, for instance, if Verizon just one day were like, oh, neutrality, let's we're gonna milk these people for all they're worth. Wouldn't that put a gigantic black eye on the company? Like, people would be like, what the fuck are you doing?
I don't know. Verizon and AT&T,
Yeah.
I think those companies I kind of think they're bulletproof because people are always going to think that they have to have their phones.
Right. Well, and in a way, I mean, listen,
that's why I'm curious.
My capitalist mind, what I think about some of this stuff is maybe potentially it'll weed out some people. Listen,
I don't think, I'm not confident in the people of America that they would fight net neutrality. For one, half the people don't even know what the hell it is.
So,
but if and when it comes into play and you're being charged $5.99, $10.99 just to have a fucking Twitter account and all that shit,
that's
I don't think. I know. I'm just saying, if it changes from where we are now,
right?
Anything that's different than how we do it now, I don't think people will find it, even though it will blow ass. I don't think people will be inconvenienced enough to protest it. And I'm afraid that it will never revert back to how it is right now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think people.
That's just. Let me put your mind to rest.
People will
for some
become
things,
complacent.
Let me put your mind to rest and everybody's mind to rest.
Please do. I'd love that.
If there are people out there who are interested and fascinated about this, I can't remember the lady's name, but Joe Rogan did a fantastic episode with a lady who is on the board of the FCC, who helped or who was a part of all of this stuff, of the voting. And she was on the episode with Eddie Wong, who did Fresh Off the Boat and this and that. It was a fantastic episode, the way she broke it down and all of this. What you need to know about net neutrality is it was decided upon and it was voted on by people, by a small group of individuals, and I think enough people that I could count on one hand, who were not even voted into office. Okay? You have no say who these people are who are making these decisions. The good news about this is that the vote was not one-sided. It was very divided.
It was like a 3-2 vote.
Yeah, exactly. It was very close. The other thing that people just aren't talking about with net neutrality is any abuse. And listen, I'm not a fan of government involvement. I'm not a big fan of regulation in general. I just think it's not great. But to put your mind at ease with the way things could potentially go, any decision that a business makes has to be looked at by the FTC. More on them later if we talk about Disney and Fox. The Federal Trade Commission. If a company like Verizon, if they just started doing some really shady business to make things worse for their customers, the Federal Trade Commission could look at it and say, what you're doing right now is dumb, and we're going to slap your wrist. Like they're trying to, they will be in charge of trying to monitor the things that go on so that there's not price gouging, so that there's not this weird competition. And the thing that I've been saying about net neutrality is some of the voices that are huge in this argument, people like Facebook, people like Google, who are very outspoken against it, they need to step the fuck up.
I know.
And provide additional services, right? One of the things that people who are for net neutrality say is that it's hopefully going to provide more competition in the marketplace. The problem right now is where I live, and this is a good thing, but I only have 2 providers for internet, right? How many providers do you have where you live for internet? Do you know?
Well, I mean, AT&T is one,
right, like
always
U-verse.
for everybody. And then
for internet?
Yeah.
So I don't even have AT&T here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we could either do the local Frankfurt one, which is essentially
Spectrum.
a monopoly. It's a terrible company.
Exactly.
And AT&T, I guess, if we wanted, or any satellite package.
So that's the issue, is that places are limited in what they can do. So if you only have 1 or 2 and one is terrible, then you're going with the other one and you're paying more money. Well, if Google and Facebook has the money and the infrastructure to build and provide new services for people. Should they be in the business of that? I don't know, but don't sit on the sideline and complain about something if you're not going to do something about it, if you're capable of doing something about it.
Some of these companies, the companies that I think are Teflon, and maybe they aren't, I wish some of them would just use their power to do more things. And I can't even think of a specific example really. But
well, you had Apple, who stood up for the rights of their users.
Well, actually, I take that back, because what I've seen this past week have you been following David Hogg and Laura Ingraham?
No.
So you know who David Hogg is?
No.
He's one of the primary faces behind the Parkland survivors. He's one of the high school students that leading with this movement or whatever. And these people, these kids, are being just their headlines, and they are in the public eye. These kids have more Twitter followers than all of the NRA.
Right.
Like, they are massive right now, and they are being so horribly
chastised,
scrutinized. Did you see what Ted Nugent said?
I did. I actually just saw that. It was funny.
He called
Rogan, not funny, but Rogan mentioned something about it. He, like, I guess earlier today, was talking about a Ted Nugent song, and that story came out, and he was like, well, bad day to talk about
Ted
this
Nugent
song.
was insinuating that these are crybaby liars, these kids.
Yeah, you know who else did that?
Who?
Oh, it's about to get really interesting. Remember the France bombings and shootings that took place with Eagles of Death Metal performed at that show?
Yeah.
Eagles of Death Metal frontman, Jesse, whatever his name is, came out and said that the people were essentially traitors to America. Are you fucking kidding me? You were in a fucking mass shooting.
Right.
And he was, basically his stance was, well, in France they have gun laws, they didn't protect us. Fuck you, man.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Right.
Are you fucking kidding me? That guy is a coward, a straight up coward. And then went on Twitter and was like, I'm starting a new Twitter of people or a new Instagram account where I can say whatever the hell I want and not be okay. So you're gonna that's so stupid.
So Laura Ingraham works is she Fox News? Anyway, I think she's Fox News. She reported that David Hogg had been rejected by several colleges that he had applied for, as if that was fucking news. And I was just like, since when is it news that a kid didn't get accepted into college? It's like, was there a headline that USC never returned my phone call?
Right.
No, that's not a fucking thing. It's just, again, just another weapon towards these kids. Even though I think what Ted Nugent did is far worse. She was just completely talking out of turn. And so when she did this, all of her, I shouldn't say all, a lot, like a dozen of her advertisers dropped the bill. Even a company like Nestle, and Nestle has no fucking balls at all. Nestle is trash. For those of you who don't know, the CEO of Nestle is a crook who believes that drinking water is not a right.
Right.
And just look up how they have stolen water essentially and bottled it, and that company shouldn't even exist. But anyway, all of her advertisers have backed off of her, so she's like taking a leave of absence to gain some clarity. She's taking a vacation, some time off to. She's apologized, but people are like, no, that's not fucking good enough when you're just trashing kids. And it just makes me sick to my stomach because people want to use some of them are 18. I don't know what their specific ages are. So
the point
they
in general,
can handle it, but it's like, no, not only are these kids, but they're fucking mass shooting survivors.
Kids in general, or not kids in general, news outlets in general, all of them need to be put on blast for the absolute garbage and trash that they put on air. And especially, I mean, listen, man, like, yeah, we can point the finger at certain people doing certain things, and that's an absolutely awful thing. But if you're still getting your fucking news from TV, just don't do it. Just stop doing it. I mean, I don't have a suggestion who to go to, who the best news source is for things like this, but news is entertainment. and they're in the business for entertainment. So I don't know, man.
And money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the business. I mean, the moral backbone of some of these companies is constantly. Yeah, everybody should be aware of the moral backbone of every single company that they give their money to. Like, at least be an informed consumer. That's what I would say to you. I complain all the time about the fact, and I'm not going to get political here, but I complain all the time about the fact that I do taxes, I give my money to the government, but it's one of the only I have to give my receipts to the government, but they can't give me a receipt for where my money is going. Is absolutely ridiculous. Like, wouldn't it be a fantastic world if I could choose where my tax money was going to,
right?
Where it was being distributed? There's things out there that I don't
police,
want,
things like that.
I don't want my money touching at all. So it's just a little bit ridiculous that we do live in a system like that. But so, be an informed consumer and know where your money is going. But then it kind of that's why I don't give a lot of money to charities and stuff that I don't know anything about. Like, if somebody were to walk up to me and be like, "Hey, do you want to donate to this?" I don't know anything about it. I don't know how much of this money is going specifically to this thing, how much of it's going in your pocket.
I actually, because I've been so worn out by politics, like, for a very short time, I was really intrigued by politics, but I'm just exhausted by it. And so now I just dive into social issues and try to learn about social.
Like Deadpool.
Yeah. So, anyway,
it wasn't meant to be a transition, but it can be fun too.
But you talked about educating yourself on certain kind of.
Yeah.
Then it starts to get annoying a little bit. Like,
you can go too far down the rabbit hole.
So at the beginning of this, I was talking about how certain corporations are cowardly and they don't take a stand. Like, for example, ESPN and apparently Disney are so.
Never heard of them.
They are so against involving themselves with anything political at all. And it kind of annoys me, but their stance is, look, we don't want to do anything that polarizes our audience. So if people watch ESPN, they are there to watch sports. So why would we ever bring up politics? No matter what side it is,
right?
Why wouldn't we just have a blanket guideline? Let's not handle the president unless the president acknowledges sports. So I think that's actually the rule Le Batard said. He said he can only talk about Trump if Trump has involved himself in sports. Otherwise, he can't. So that's actually what I was thinking of when I started this conversation. But then there's the complete other side where I side with the viewer when they just want to escape, watch their sports, and not have to deal with. If they go to ESPN to shut off CNN or Fox News or whatever, then they should have that capability. And to speak to your point, this is where it starts to bother me a little bit. If I knew everything about every company, restaurant chain, or whatever that I supported, I would exhaust myself and I would have nowhere else to go.
For sure.
Like,
yeah,
Jimmy John's is a great example. Their CEO is a big game hunter, and I'm not for that, because not only do I not give a shit about hunting, come at me, even though I live in Kentucky, there are plenty of people that hunt and eat everything that they kill. But I just don't see a point. In that, and that's not enough to stop me from going to Jimmy John's, even though I disagree with it, and I know that makes me seem cowardly.
I don't think. I mean, listen. First of all, there's a lot more people involved in a company than just one person, right? I mean, you're contributing to people who.
Well, I mean, it's different because it's the CEO. But I didn't say the cashier at the Lexington.
but that's one person that's one thing that guy's doing that you don't necessarily agree with. And I'm sure there could be other examples of things, but yeah, I mean, this person's also giving people jobs. I mean, that's something we can support. I mean, their stuff is tasty. I mean, there's that as well, I guess.
Chick-fil-A is another great example when they were all anti-gay for a little while, and I remember just thinking, you know what? I'm fine with gay people, totally cool with it, but Chick-fil-A makes delicious chicken.
Well,
I was like, look.
Here's my biggest issue with that. So there's a huge difference between educating yourself about where your money's going in terms of aligning yourself with certain moral values. And there's also going through the checklist and saying like, well, there's one thing I'm not hanging on to this. If you can't have it. Well, let me figure out how the best way to say this is. If you're going to be that person that goes through the checklist and says, oh, the big game hunting thing, that's this one thing, but I'm done with them.
Right.
Chick-fil-A, they have things going on with homosexuals. I'm done with them. The motherfucker, you better get rid of your cell phone. You better get rid of your computer. You want to know how much probably legitimate slave labor exists putting together your cell phone?
Our Nike shoes.
I mean, it just, guys, like there's a certain level to some of this stuff. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong to be ignorant to it. But it is what it is. It's the world that we live in.
How do you justify owning Nike shoes? How does someone...
I mean, I don't buy a lot of Nike shoes anymore, but...
For that reason? Or because you don't like the style?
Because I'm not a huge fan of some of the
I'm
shoes.
asking generally. I'm not asking Jay.
Yeah.
I'm asking how the human populace justifies, or do they just not care? Do they just...
Well, first of all, if I'm being completely honest and transparent about it...
I'm wearing Nikes, by the way.
So, complete honesty, I don't know how valid that is, simply because I've never done research. I know 100% that is a common thing that people say that, oh, Nike makes things with child labor in countries and this and that. I know they've also come under scrutiny for it in the past. I don't know if that's taking place today. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I haven't done the research to do it or to make that sort of assessment. What I can say is that, I live my life doing the things that I need to do to provide for the people that I love and that I care for. Would I like to be more socially conscious about things? Absolutely. But, my own priorities, living my own day-to-day life is sort of at the forefront of what I do. If I spent enough time and had the sort of conviction to sit down and research that and found that out, I would probably be a little bit more vocal. Maybe I would do something like that, after this discussion. But again, man, it's just one of those things. It's hard for me to champion something like that and walk around with Apple products. It's hard to champion something like that and do a lot of the things that I love to do.
It's not the only reason that I don't have Apple products, but the suicide nets.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Foxconn in general.
That certainly doesn't help.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, that's the dark side of capitalism, right? I mean, that's the dark side of it is the fact that I'm a staunch capitalist. I believe in the good principles of it. I think it has some really great things, but the dark side of it is that people take advantage of it. And if they can get cheaper labor by any means necessary, they will take advantage of it. And it is unfortunate. I mean, again, I'm not going to get political here. I think there should be, things in place to some sort of incentive to get people to not use those things. I think there should be penalties for people that do use those things.
That's what annoys me so much about fetish patriotism. The idea that
what is it? What'd you say?
It's what I call fetish patriotism.
Okay, I feel like there were some syllables that were left out when you said that. Fetish patriotism.
Oh, am I drunk? Did I fuck that up? Let's play it back. No, that's the problem I have with fetish patriotism. When people just turn a blind eye and just America is perfect no matter what.
Right.
And there's no room for rebellion. There's no room for reform. Even with the lessons that we have in history, that this country has always been reformed by rebellion in some way, shape, or form. It just annoys me to think that like the attitude, like if I were to raise any concern about America and then someone comes at me with the attitude of, if you don't like it, move to Canada. No, that's not fucking acceptable.
Yeah. I think part of my big problem with people who like to take up torches and pitchforks and this and that is the fact that, even that becomes a fetish at a certain point, especially when you surround yourself in certain bubbles. I think to casually go on Twitter or Facebook or whatever it's going to be just to make your voice heard because, well, I need to do this to make sure people know that I'm for the cause when people really aren't doing shit. I would rather people, just go and do shit as opposed to just acting that way, because I think there's a lot of people out there.
So social media is certainly not the most effective way.
100%. And I think there's a lot of people out there who will take issue with certain things, not only not wanting to get their hands dirty, but also haven't gone through the type of hardships throughout their own. I'm not discrediting people who do take issues with things and want to stand up for causes, but it's sort of like there's a certain level almost to where they don't want to exceed a certain point, and it's because they haven't associated their own life with certain struggles and certain challenges. I would feel much more comfortable hearing about healthcare, for instance, from somebody who actually knows about healthcare. I would love to hear what somebody who actually works at or has gone through something like
Jimmy John's,
a veterans hospital or something like that, because veterans hospitals are supported by the government, right? Governments pay for those hospitals.
Right.
You want to know what a government or a government financially provided for hospital looks like, you can go look at a veterans hospital to do that. And there's a lot of criticisms there. So it's sort of like, I remember somebody telling me one time that it's like, government providing healthcare and this and that sounds like a great idea on paper. I don't know if I want our government providing. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So it's just like, they can't even take care of our fucking
veterans.
Did I say veterans earlier? I meant veterans.
Veterans.
I just did the LEG thing. How dare I? Yes, veterans, not. Wait, no, that's right.
No, you were just.
You said a different word. Is it veteran or is it veteran?
It's either one. Sort of like elementary or elementary.
Oh,
it's just how you enunciate. You didn't say a different word. You said the same word.
Yeah,
you just said it goofy.
I didn't say veterinarian, did I?
Anyways, no, you said veteran.
Anyways, I just think that's fascinating. I want to go back to the original thing that kicked this whole thing off, because honestly, this whole discussion is making me sick.
Why? We can't talk about this? I figured you'd
know.
This is the Joe Rogan experience.
It's going on
Sight and Sound.
Too long.
Oh God.
No, to go back to the what were we talking about earlier? The net neutrality thing. What I was talking about with
it's like 30 minutes ago.
I brought something up about weeding people out. I don't mean like people should die off. That's not what I'm saying.
Hell yes.
What I mean by that is, listen, we've grown up and lived a life to where especially with technology, we've been able to look at things that are put in front of us, services, and say, I think there's an alternative to this. I'm going to move in this direction. One of the best examples is cord cutting, right? We've constantly been served up on a silver platter this whole thing of, oh, here's your cable package, here's your satellite package. I cut the cord a while ago. I was really worried about doing it. I have not even thought. You know how dumb I think it is to even have a cable package now? It's fucking ststupid.
I agree that you should not pay for TV anymore.
It's so stupid. So it's just like,
well, never mind. I misspoke. But anyway, go ahead.
If that thing happened that you were like, oh, what are we gonna do if all of a sudden we wake up and it costs $5.99 for Twitter? Well, guess what? We're gonna have to make a decision, right? Maybe we don't need Twitter anymore.
I would get rid of Facebook before I got rid of Twitter.
But that's what I'm saying. Is it's just like maybe we just don't need this anymore,
dude. And
some people will do it. Some people will pay that money, and it will continue on. But the smart people, the people who are just like, this is bullshit. Let's just go.
Dude, there are people, though,
let's get on Tumblr,
that are still buying DVDs.
I know.
That will have cable for the next 30 years, no matter what, because they don't understand the alternative.
And that's fine. We're off doing our own thing. People don't even know what a podcast is, and that's fine.
I have not. This week I felt pretty old because because you just gave us a lot of credit, but I have never felt older trying to figure out how I'm going to
Fortnite?
stream video games.
There are times,
I
yeah,
like
I get what you're saying.
It's taken me so long to figure out the equipment, how I can do it consistently, because there's also how does Sight and Sound do it? How can we capitalize on this opportunity? How do we set it up to where it benefits us?
Can I throw something out with that real quick though? Because I've actually done a little bit. There was a time when I thought about streaming on Twitch when I was playing FIFA. I remember looking at the user interface for it and how it's structured, and I thought to myself, there should be a much easier way to do this.
You know why it is that way?
Why?
Because of Amazon. We talked about this a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Amazon.com is a mess.
Like, for instance, let me just give you a for instance.
It's so complex.
So from what I do know about it, like, if you want to capture your video game stuff and your video, like a video of you, you have to have a capture card in order to do it. Route it through your TV. It just shouldn't be that way. It should be like, I should be able to just select inputs from two different things and they both pop up. But in order to do that, you have to have so many middle things in order for that to work. And it's just like, why?
So if I had Twitch up on my Xbox, I can... it opens up because Xbox runs on Windows, right? So I have the game. Twitch comes out. Twitch appears like in the right third of the screen, and I can set up a stream, but then it goes away and I'm playing the game and I can't see any of the chat.
Yeah.
So I had to bring up the chat on the Twitch app on my phone.
Yep.
But I'm playing a video game, so I can hardly look at my phone and cooperate with the chat. And this might actually be particular.
How hard would it be for it just to scale it down a little bit and show that chat?
Exactly. And I actually think that might actually be a console thing, because I know when I've seen Ken Knapsack stream, I can see his chat. So I think because he plays on PS4, I think that has a capability, but I don't think Xbox does.
Yeah.
Which you would think Twitch would figure, like Twitch should be
Just
working with them to figure that fucking out, because that's nothing.
Yeah.
Introducing a chat, that would have been one of my first ideas if I was creating
There's
Twitch.
a few other things like that, though. Examples like, why has YouTube still not landed on the best way to do live streaming?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
Because
like,
you need a media
not
encoder.
Not anymore.
I just looked it up.
Didn't they just change it?
I tried to do YouTube gaming, and I pretty much have all of the equipment that it would take any normal service.
What happened to Hangouts?
To stream my video game?
Is Hangouts done?
I went to YouTube gaming, and it needs the encoder and all that bullshit the same way that the way Collider must operate when they do live video. It's the same thing, and it's all bullshit and overly complicated when it just shouldn't be. If you have Twitch, if you go to twitch.com or twitch.tv, the website, you can't actually stream there. It's only a viewer experience or like your account login.
Right.
But I would have to download
like a third-party thing.
A third-party screen capture thing.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Why would you have to do that? Yeah. I think you can download a Twitch. No, that's not true. There's like the desktop version of Twitch as well that I downloaded.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, twitch.tv. So I can only watch. I can't actually stream that way. Isn't that ridiculous?
When I think of like some apps and this and that exist out there in the world, and I'm just like, this exists the best way that I feel like it possibly could. You know, I'm sure there's things that could change. I think of Spotify. Spotify, you can get on it on your phone, and you have a desktop app, and now they have just the web browser app. They're just like,
say you have like a Chrome plugin where it's
we're just gonna make it as easy
tab,
as that's one of the things when we started developing Sight and Sound, we sort of championed for a while. We got off of a few things, but like one of our first goals was like, let's just upload to every single platform that we can just to make the experience as easy as possible for people.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like there's some people out there who, if you are into like web app developing, that you're just like, you have no fucking idea.
Well, there are also like people like Ralph and Evan who stream on PS4 or play on PS4, and they're just laughing at me because I'm sure a lot of these problems are particular to Windows. But I do think it speaks you brought up the capture card. I have a I had to use the capture card to make that video
You have
I
an
made.
Elgato?
I do have an Elgato. That's how I made that video.
Yeah.
Because I recorded myself on my phone. Like, isn't that obnoxious?
No, it's really annoying.
Here's another thing. I bought a Microsoft webcam to plug into my Xbox so that I could go on and put my image in the corner of the video game. Xbox only allows the Kinect to do that. Even though I have a Microsoft, I can open up the camera app on my Xbox and see myself. But it can't work with Twitch.
Yeah,
it's
silly.
Ridiculous.
Dumb shit.
And not only that, I don't know if you've been following this, Jay. The Kinect has been discontinued for a while now. And not only that, it's been discontinued. Not only that, if I wanted to go on eBay and buy a Kinect,
I'm sure they're outrageous.
No, they're not that bad. They're like $100. They've always been about 100-ish.
What do you do? Jumping jacks?
If I bought a Kinect, the stand that it's on is particular to Windows, and I could not mount it to a tripod.
Right.
So I don't even know.
You do some janky situation where like tape it to your TV?
If I bought a Kinect, I don't know how I would fucking do that. Because I'm going to need to frame it. Like someone's saying, put it on your TV. But no, it's going to be super high angle. It's going to have a lot of space behind me. It's like, I need to be able to maneuver it a little bit. And it can't sit in front of my TV. It's just a mess. I've been having a horrible time trying to figure out the best way to do this bullshit.
Reminds me when I first started podcasting, like, how do I do this?
It's just annoying. And that's why I feel so old. I taught myself Sony Vegas. I taught myself Adobe Premiere, and I just mastered all this shit.
Do you like Vegas? You like Sony Vegas?
It's been a long time since I've used it.
Grim Green swore by Sony Vegas for years. Like, it was just recently, like within the last year or two, that he moved over to Final Cut. That's another thing. No, I don't want to get into this. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. We have a lot of pop culture stuff to talk about.
All right, well, let's we're kind of on topic. Let's do Disney Fox real quick. And Deadpool, I guess. It's mainly the Deadpool conversation, but
yeah.
Jay and I have had a version of this off air, but we also talked a little bit about it. I brought it up on After Smo, how I feel like a lot of people are so unclear about Disney Fox when I thought it was pretty concrete. And you brought up the FTC. There is a process. For one, we don't even know if Disney is the buyer.
Did you do some research on that, by the way?
What do you mean?
Because we had this conversation, and I feel like maybe I don't know. I feel like you changed your tune a little bit with it.
About what? We've had a lot of conversations. Are you talking about the After Smoke conversation? Or are you talking about the conversation we had earlier
like
today?
The very first one we talked about. I don't know. Just continue.
Okay, well, let's just go through it. So, regardless, I'm bringing this up because anytime there's a bit of movie news, we just found out that Dark Phoenix and New Mutants were pushed back. And we're watching our guys on Collider. A lot of people are making up reasons as to why this may be the case. Does it involve the Disney Fox deal? Is it because they're waiting to put New Mutants on the streaming service, the Disney streaming service? And as a fan,
which was an idea purported by Jeff Snyder, just one person. Yeah. He's the one that put that out initially. He put out that theory, and people ran.
He's not the only person that's doing what I'm talking about.
Well, no, I'm just saying he was the first one that put that out, that notion out, and people ran with that.
That's just the one headline that you're talking about, though.
Yes, 100%.
There's a lot of examples of this on a daily basis where people are like, "Is this the Disney streaming?" And
we had one today.
So every time that comes up for me, I don't know that I'm totally right, but I just think that is such wild speculation that no one needs to be having. Like, it's one thing to speculate, is the Silver Surfer in Infinity War? Because maybe that's the case. But because, to me, there have been reportings that have come out and denied that we are so far away from this thing being a reality that no one needs to concern themselves with this right now. And so I'm just getting peeved at this. And so why are you shaking your head?
I was thinking of another example too. This is speaking specifically to just wild reporting on things based off of no information and knowledge or limited information and knowledge. The news report that the Fantastic Four is returning to Marvel Comics. Does this mean that we might get them in the No, not what you can't you can't just make that leap like that.
I know. Like it depends.
That's like saying the sun is going to come up. It could rain. Yes, it fucking can. It could rain. It also could snow. It also could be a tornado.
Okay, I agree with you. Yeah. I saw that same shit. It's like, no, it's just the comics. Because there were always comics. It doesn't have anything to... Comics are the comics, and they were always were, and it didn't... Anyway. So, basically what I'm getting at is that Disney might not even be the buyer of these Fox properties.
Right.
Comcast, from what I know, Comcast still wants some of that. That's not a done deal. Even if Disney was the buyer, there are so many systemic processes that they have to go through that could take a year, 12 to 18 months to finalize that deal. Kevin Feige might, in the back of his brain, because he grew up wondering what a movie would be like, Kevin Feige might have an idea, but as far as pre-pro and actually planning and
any sort of decision making,
none of that is happening.
Yeah.
It's not. The only version of that is if they said, hey, I want to use Skrulls for Captain Marvel, but they had to talk to Fox about it. The same reason that they got Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Just that kind of deal might be taking place. But
isn't there still something in place with the Hulk? Like how they can use the Hulk?
Universal has distribution if it's a Hulk solo movie. So Hulk can be utilized. If Hulk is utilized as a side character and he's not the title card, then Marvel gets away with it. But they can't make a Hulk movie without involving Universal. So anyway, where was I going with that? So anyway, nobody needs to be, including the fans. There's just no reason to be talking about Disney Fox right now. We're jumping the gun.
Especially not to that extent.
I did when it first came out. Of course, we all talked about what it could possibly mean.
Right.
But to see that New Mutants is being shuffled and to automatically go to, is this going to be on the Disney streaming service?
It's a non-story.
For one, Fox, it's a Fox movie still. Fox, the studio, is operating as per usual. Fox is still doing its thing. Deadpool 2 is coming out, regardless of if Disney's going to buy them or not.
Right.
We'll get more into that later. But that's just kind of been bothering me lately.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest issue here is, like I've already said, the sort of just wild, aimless speculation, jumping to conclusion, formulating entire bits of discussion and content around a premise that's just simply not the case right now. Not only that's not the case, but there's no possible way, even if you had like an inside source, you just can't make those connections right now. At this point, it's literally fan fiction. It's all fan fiction. The stuff that's going on right now with this Fox and Disney deal, behind the scenes, anytime a transaction like this is made of this magnitude and of this scale, the government has to step in. The FTC, like we've already talked about, the Federal Trade Commission, has to closely monitor and look at every single thing that's going on for issues of antitrust, for issues. They even examine, like, could this potentially be a monopoly? All this stuff. We saw the exact same thing with Apple and Beats by Dre. In fact, if Disney were to go and have any of their fingerprints on anything that Fox was doing right now, not only could it potentially be against the law, not only could they potentially go to be sued by the government themselves, the Supreme Court, but it could just ruin the deal. Because, listen, when Apple was going to buy Beats by Dre, this is documented in that documentary that HBO did, but Dr. Dre was filmed by Tyrese talking about how much the deal was going to go down for, and the entire thing almost fell apart. It almost completely broke down. Apple was going to pull out because stuff like that can't be discussed. If they were to have their fingerprints on stuff, just think about this. Let's say Disney said, okay, you know what? We've got Avengers Infinity War coming out. Let's move these Fox things around so that it can maximize the money that we make in the box office.
Right.
Guess what? That affects the stock market. That is illegal. It is illegal. You can't do that as operating as two separate entities. So just stop. Just stop going here.
I want to make sure that we're clear. I'm not against fun, wild speculation. Yeah. In this case, my point is that there is information and reportings out there to just shut down that conversation as if it's reality.
Well, it's doing
that's what I'm annoyed with.
What it's doing is it's squashing truthful information that comes out. Like, for instance, when Steve Weintraub came on and actually gave some of the reasonings that he's been hearing for this that had nothing to do with any of this stuff, it was really interesting. Like, right. I was very interested in it, but it's sad that all of that truth or potential truth from a very credible source is going to be swallowed up by all of this fan fiction. It's like, that's what sucks. All of the great conversations that could have been had about this from pundits, from the rest of movie news sources and fans, because of this stuff that's just living in fantasy world.
Fox and Disney are operating as is right now, and just assuming that a superhero X-Men movie, even if New Mutants was Disney pulling strings for that movie, it's also just another leap in general to assume that it'd be housed on the streaming service. Yeah. Like, why wouldn't Disney just release it in theaters? Like, well, it's just so annoying.
It's sort of funny. It's actually hilarious that Disney ends up being the ones that are the puppeteers in this, when it could just as easily be Fox. Like, exactly. It would actually be a more understandable thing for them to say, we're still working on New Mutants. Let's pull it back even more. And maybe if we do sell to Fox and this and that, then maybe we can.
And what's hilarious is that New Mutants is going through reshoots to make it a harder horror movie,
right?
Which is not something that you would think Disney would ever do,
right?
So it's just this specific example is annoying to me. But anyway, point is, Disney Fox right now operating as usual. Nothing to see here. Deadpool animated series. Let's talk about what happened, because not only did the Glover
probably
brothers,
one of my favorite things that happened this entire
week. It was
week.
cool. Not only did the Glover brothers pull out of that deal, but FX pulled out of the deal. So it was the Glovers and FX pulled out from that show, continuing to get made. So who's the versus then? Who else is there?
What do you mean?
Like, who are they saying no to? If it was FX and Donald Glover, who are they saying no to? The production company? Like, I don't get it. I didn't read that report.
I'm confused about what it is. Who are the Glover brothers saying no to?
Someone did something that the Glover brothers and FX did not like, so they put the kibosh on the project. So who is the other party?
Oh, I mean, it could be anybody. It could be
another producer.
Yeah,
I don't.
You're looking at big picture, like Fox, FX, FXX, whoever the head of all that stuff is. It could be somebody. It could be anybody in between. The point of this whole thing is the pulling of the plug on the situation came with some vitriol from Donald Glover himself. Like, the fact that when it happened, it all seemed to be fine, right? All parties seemed to be going off in their different directions until people started speculating that one of the reasons that this possibly happened was because of how busy Donald Glover was and that he couldn't execute it. So he took issue with this, released So what's funny about how this all happened was he at like 4 a.m. released the script for the quote unquote finale of the Deadpool animated series season. And
I don't know. That's not what happened.
Yes, it is what happened.
He wrote it specifically.
That's where I'm getting to. So
Okay.
at the time, and when it was first reported, all outlets were reporting that he leaked the script to the finale.
Yes.
That's what it said on the cover. A couple hours later, they had to change that headline because it wasn't the actual script.
Right.
It was something that he wrote on the spot. It would have been all well and good if he just said, here's an example of what I did, except interlaced into the script itself were so many jabs,
Right.
so many little daggers to people throughout the entire industry. Nobody specifically being named, not Fox, not FX, not Disney to a certain extent. It was just a commentary
Right.
on the situation and on just situations in general.
Which is funny because I think it would have been more effective had he provided an episode of the show. Because people don't know what the show is based on that. You know what I mean? So it's not like we really understand what we're missing out on.
Did you read any of this? Did you read it?
I read a little bit of it.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is because it's outside of any episodic narrative, if you will, in the way,
which doesn't come to a surprise coming from something.
It's not exactly like how the visual effects teaser was released for the actual Deadpool movie.
Right.
Like, because that we can see with our own eyes and we get what could have been, whereas he, again, wrote it specifically. Like, it's still cool. I'm not taking anything away from the move. I love it. I love that he did this because, again, it is similar to what happened. Someone said no to Deadpool. Maybe Tim Miller, maybe Ryan Reynolds leaked that thing, and then it eventually got the fucking movie made. And so even though it's not exactly the same move, it's similar. And I love that Deadpool is this kind of character that so many people are passionate about it that they continue to do things like this. What pisses me off is that whoever they took issue with is still saying no to Deadpool, even though there's still a proven success for this character. And there is not a single body on Earth that feels like they aren't missing out on this animated series.
So we have nothing to go by in terms of what this show could have been outside of this. So let's just put something into context. The quote unquote script that was written with some frustration. There's no way to actually know if what he wrote was for sure going to be like that.
Right.
But let's just extrapolate on this. When I was reading this, I found it hilarious and interesting just how on the nose this was to what Donald Glover brings to the table. We've talked about this off air, but on paper, Donald Glover being involved in anything is great, right? For whatever project, we see that. We see that with everything he's involved in. However, there's a big difference between Donald Glover being involved in something and Donald Glover helming something, right? Anytime Donald Glover is in charge, or the Glover brothers are in charge of something to the extent that they were going to be with this Deadpool movie, it's going to be fucking weird. It's going to be really wacky. It's going to challenge people. All Donald Glover has done throughout the entirety of his career as a creative, maybe not necessarily playing roles, but as a creative, is challenge the audience, challenge the status quo. Atlanta is not for everybody. You know, all of Gambino's music is not for everybody. Motherfucker issued a screenplay because of the internet. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he does not play by the same rules. And I think it would not surprise me if there were some people with a big property that existed like this, even as wacky as Deadpool is, that wouldn't scare them to a certain extent.
You know who has a history of challenging their audience? FX.
Yeah.
That is why again, maybe I should have read the report, but I have to know who they were butting heads with.
Yeah.
For them to do this. I that's the part that I don't get. But I'm not at all convinced, going back to what brought this up in general, is people are automatically going to, well, is it Disney? If Disney's about to buy, do they want to take in a Bob Iger said.
Well, there's a Screen Rant article today that went through this whole thing.
Bob Iger said that things like properties like Deadpool, they could still have a place under Disney.
Right.
So it'd be one thing if the Deadpool cartoon comes out this September and in a year from now they cancel season 2 because it's now under Disney. That's one thing. Disney has nothing to do with the fact that this got canceled.
Yeah, I mean, even as avant-garde as FX is, FX, that's a big property for them to have, like, on their channel. And I think that's what's a little bit worrisome for people. Like, oh, if this is really off the wall and weird and people stumble onto it and want to watch it because they're fans of our movies and it's too weird for them, are they going to be affected as moviegoers? I don't know.
It's
but
bullshit.
One of the
that's a case of thinking your audience is too dumb.
Oh, 100%.
Because Deadpool animated series, if it's on FX, it would probably be on FXX. Deadpool animated series would blow the roof off the place.
Oh, absolutely.
And just destroy any numbers that Legion ever thought about making.
For sure. And one of the things that was in one of these little jabs that was in the screenplay itself was this sort of meta questioning of whether or not this was potentially because whoever made this decision was racist. Was this a racist act?
Give me a break.
One of the interesting things to come out of it, and I think it raises some interesting questions. I legitimately do, for all parties. We talked off air, and yes, you're right. You were right when you mentioned, and a lot of people who suggested, like, if it was Disney, it couldn't be them because they just had Black Panther. One of the things that I find something to think about, right, I think, is Black Panther, an incredible achievement for Black culture. It's fantastic that Ryan Coogler got to make that movie with an all-Black cast and this and that. There is such thing as systemic racism in the sense where it's not spoken. They're not saying, we don't want Donald Glover making this show too Black. However, there is something to be said for decision makers out there, studios, whatever, anybody in power, saying that we're fearful of this not registering well enough with our white audience. That being an internal monologue. Kanye West talks a lot about he's always been put in a box. Oh, that's really nice. It's really cute. You want to be a rapper who designs shoes. No, I want to be a rapper and I want to design shoes. I don't want to be one or the other. It's great that Ryan Coogler got to make that movie. It's fantastic. But that's why we champion the idea of a more diverse Star Wars film, right? Like, we don't just want to see Black people making Black movies. We don't just want to see women making women movies.
So your point is, okay, let's confront not having any female directors. Let's hire all female directors for Jessica Jones.
Exactly.
But not worry about it for Daredevil. So Black Panther is an example of that. You're absolutely right. But you could also go to...
I'm not taking anything away from it either.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. It's not what you're saying you want, or you're just bringing up that point. Ava DuVernay doing A Wrinkle in Time, they gave her the reins to make that movie, but did she make a Black movie? No.
Exactly.
She's from Compton, and just because she's from Compton doesn't mean that her sensibility... Even if she did, it wouldn't be the concern.
Right.
But my point is, no one was afraid that movie... No one said anything about worrying that movie was going to be too Black, because it's not a problem, because people can still connect to that. And Deadpool, I think, it's just an exception to everything. And
it
for
was,
people to be concerned about that, I just cannot.
It was
believe.
fascinating to me to read some of the things that I read in it, just with how ingrained in pop culture that was, talking about the Beyonce biting incident. Tekashi 6ix9ine, you familiar with Tekashi 6ix9ine?
No.
I mean, this is a a pretty popular hip hop artist today. It's just like things that are that narrow, that made and directed towards, hip hop culture and black culture and this and that. Like, that's the only reason I wanted to bring up this issue is because I think if people go there with this conversation, because again, it is interesting and a fascinating thing to explore. I don't personally know. I have no way of knowing if Donald Glover was serious when he put that in there, but much like a lot of the things that he puts in his work, he's making you think about these things, right? He just did an episode of Atlanta, no spoiler alert, I guess, but he just did an episode of Atlanta where there was an act of racism in the episode, and it was a huge talking point. And then as the episode progressed on, the exact same thing happened to him by a member of his own race. And it ended up switching the script from being an act of racism to an act of classism. This thing was being done to him because he was poor. And things like that. I think that's why Donald Glover is such a fascinating individual, why he's such a great creative, because he can ask questions like this. And I think this whole conversation too, and this is where I can put a bow on it on my side of the thing, or of the conversation. This whole concept of him being too busy, I hate to tell you guys, he's kind of running out of things to do at this point, right? We were all celebrating Donald Glover and how many things he was involved with when he was doing Atlanta. He had a Gambino album coming out. He's doing the solo film. It's wrapped. They're finishing it up. It's going to come
not
out.
only solo wrapped, but Atlanta is wrapped.
Atlanta, season 2.
They've already been done with that.
Lion King, I'm sure that he's going to do stuff for that. He's got another Gambino album he's going to be working on at the end of the year. Other than that, though, future's pretty open.
Right.
For Donald Glover.
Yeah.
That Shocker movie that he's going to do.
He's not the Shocker.
Not the Shocker. What's that guy's name? The Prowler. Sorry.
It's hilarious to me that Donald Glover, before he was Donald Glover, he was a writer on 30 Rock.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to label that anything, that is a white show.
Yeah, it is. In fact, the black character in the show is a caricature of
exactly
what people would think of in that scenario.
He was also on Community, which was a white show.
It's also somebody that grew up in white communities. He's been very outspoken about that he grew up going to, living in white neighborhoods and this and that. And that was something that was very pushed upon him. Like, make sure you integrate well with white people.
I just think that this is so disappointing for so many reasons. Not only do we love Donald Glover, not only does anything involving this Disney Fox stuff annoy me, but Deadpool, the character, and the movie, the franchise, proved that you cannot grade it on the same scale as everything else. It is exception to every rule. And not only did Deadpool prove that on its own, Deadpool, in my opinion, it also challenged everyone to think about how they grade everything else. Will audiences accept things like Black Panther? Of course they fucking will.
Right.
It's the highest grossing superhero. All of these ridiculous concerns that studio heads have about this thing, doing this, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, you can make your decisions. If something is being greenlit, you can decide right then and there, is the best place for it as a TV series? Is it on Netflix? I get that kind of conversation.
The strategic planning of things. Yeah.
I absolutely get that, but I think they just need to stop. They just need to stop concerning themselves with white audiences, black audiences, blah, blah, blah.
What if scenarios.
And just make the fucking shit.
Yeah, give it a chance to succeed, as opposed to just putting up these roadblocks before it's even explored.
And things like Deadpool are proof that you don't need that kind of
A
stuff.
lot of stuff out there that's like that for sure. Listen, let's take a quick break here,
Because now I have to pee.
and then we'll come back and we'll talk some more music stuff, and we need to obviously touch on more TV stuff too.
God, yeah, there's a lot.
All right.
We'll have to go rapid fire.
Let's do it. We'll be right back. One of the things that we are super proud of here at Sight and Sound is the Sight and Sound Facebook group. It was started by our very own listeners. The Facebook group is the place to be to not only interact with our fantastic community, you can debate with people, stay up to date with pop culture news. You can also interact with Ryan and myself. We're in there all the time. Check out the link in the description box of this podcast and join the group today.
Where did it go? It just zoomed in. I thought this entire podcast disappeared, which would have been fine. I wish my take was a little bit stronger during that last segment, but it's okay. People got the gist of it.
Let's talk just a little bit of music stuff. There's a ton of news to go through. Probably my favorite thing that happened this week was the Weeknd and the fact that he surprise dropped his album. The way this sort of all came to play was on Instagram. He basically posted a screenshot of him texting with, I think it was his manager, where he was just like, I think I'm just going to put it out Friday. That's what the text message said. You're like, what does that mean? Because it could be a single, could be an album, could be an EP.
Could be a t-shirt design.
That's true. Could be anything, really. Anyways, it was sort of all but confirmed via, I think it was a billboard in somewhere in the world, that this project was going to be coming out called what's it called? Dear Melancholy?
Yeah.
My Dear Melancholy? I don't know. Whatever it's called. Anyways, I unfortunately reported incorrect news.
Oh, no.
I had posted that his album was going to come out on Friday.
It did.
This was not an album. It was an EP. It was 6 songs. However, the people who also reported the same thing that I reported are still calling it an album. Pitchfork reported that it was an album, and they're still sticking to it. In fact, today they put out a news story saying, it's kind of somewhere in between an EP and an album. No, it's not.
Wait a minute. I thought that any musical release could be called an album. It's not a full-length album.
Technically, well,
I would still say Brave the Storm has put out 2 albums.
No. I think
But if I broke it down, I would say 2 EPs and then an upcoming potential full-length.
No.
No.
So technically, I believe this is correct. It's anything under 8 songs is technically an EP. In fact, when you submit to Spotify, at least, if it's under that amount, they automatically shove it into the single section where the singles and EPs do live. So yeah, this is an EP. It's definitely
definitely an EP.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no question about it.
I don't know what's going on with that. But one of the reasons, and I apologize that I jumped to that conclusion of an album, because
it's okay.
I mentioned this on the music show, but you don't normally get EPs from artists that big. Are you of that understanding?
Do you get
too?
EPs in hip hop or R&B or whatever in general?
I think 2 Chainz released an EP.
Did he?
Yeah, recently.
Well, I guess even Gambino, he put out Kawaii EP. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, he was sort of more of an underground sort of guy for a while. And you had Miley Cyrus put out an EP back in the day.
Really? I didn't know that.
That's where what's that? What's one of her big songs?
Party in the USA.
That's exactly it. It came out on an EP, and it was sort of different, sort of a game changer, I think. But it's just something you don't see all the time from really major artists. But I was interested in this because I'm a massive Weeknd fan. I've been a Weeknd fan for a very, very long time, since the Trilogy days, and that's the Weeknd that I love. The bigger he got, the more he dove down into the rabbit hole of pop music, and I was fine with it. And there's some good pop songs from the Weeknd, but I didn't find anything that interesting or special about him when he was making those sort of Michael Jackson, Prince karaoke songs. I just Thought they were just fine. Didn't care for Starboy that much either. But I'm always fascinated what your take with The Weeknd is, because you're always a bigger fan of The Weeknd than I realize that you are. And maybe big fan isn't the right word, but you enjoy him more than I realize.
There are a lot of times that I just put on The Weeknd.
Really?
Yes. What's the album before Starboy?
Beauty Behind the Madness.
Yes.
The one that sort of broke him out.
That is definitely my favorite Weeknd.
His second commercial full-length album. People don't realize that.
Yeah.
That's
definitely my Weeknd.
Right.
I didn't respond to Starboy that much. I like the first few songs, but then
some of the hits, yeah.
I'm concerned, especially after this EP. I like this. I've only listened to it once. I like it.
It's a really easy listen.
I will still revisit it. I think The Weeknd is close to becoming monotonous.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't know if if you're listening to the first 3 songs on Starboy, they're different. Within the song,
nuances.
I don't know if within the songs they are dynamic enough to make me feel like I'm always listening to something unique or different. You can probably pick up on nuance and subtleties that I can't, but when I hear this EP, nothing leaps off of the screen. My computer screen.
It's a blob.
No, yes, it does still feel like the monotonous. I can listen to this EP and just say I get it, but I still like it, and I think that is the majority ruling, is that this is good Weeknd.
I mean, I actually agree with you a lot. I think for me, the biggest criticism that I can give The Weeknd, like a constant thing and an issue that he's had throughout the entirety of his career, even though I'm not a lyrics guy, his lyrics are awful, because and it's not because the things he's saying are corny and just bad and he doesn't know how to write good lyrics. It's not my issue. If you have heard essentially the topic of one Weeknd song, you've heard every Weeknd song. His lyrics are incredibly vapid. They're incredibly just like self-absorbed, like songs. She only loves me for my fame and money is like a topic of like 13 different Weeknd songs.
Yeah.
I only am in love with this girl when I'm high. It's just like, really, man? Like, we can't find other things to talk about. So I think that right there is a great example of what you're saying. I think
he's just not ever doing a lot.
Yeah, and there are very iconic moments on The Weeknd. For instance, I think the best body of work that he's ever put out to this day is House of Balloons, his first mixtape off of the Trilogy project. Bangers for days. Has the song High for This, has the song House of Balloons and Glass Table Girls, which are all very, very The Morning, very, very iconic Weeknd songs. And if you haven't listened to those songs, I urge you to go back to his first project.
I don't know if I've heard them.
It's incredible. It's such, from front to back, every single song slaps. Every single song is a banger. And he has other very iconic songs. The Hills, Often, I think, is a very iconic song.
That's my Weeknd.
Exactly.
Everything
Yes, very, very big moments. You know what a lot of those songs have in common?
What?
He worked with the same producer called Elangelo, who he hasn't really worked with.
Elangelo?
He hasn't really worked with since. I have been crying out for a return for him to work with Elangelo again, because that is 100% his best music. I'm sick of him working with Daft Punk and all that. But regardless, I think The Weeknd is at his best when he is darker, when he makes darker music, because I just find it more interesting. And I was glad to hear that he essentially returned to that on this EP. This whole thing is about his breakup with Selena Gomez. The whole thing is.
Yeah.
I like that it has
He's upset.
I like that it has an identity to it. Like, if you have a specific feeling when you listen to this Weeknd album and it appeals to you with that feeling in mind, you will always know what to go back to when you have that feeling. This thing does sort of wander around the desert a little bit. Some songs run into each other. They have sort of the same. I agree with you. But I do like that he's sort of turning a corner, that it's not just about the bangers. There are songs on here that could easily be listened to on the radio and this and that, but it's not something that I think is going to be like, I don't think it's going to bring in a bunch of new Weeknd listeners by any means, but
right.
I was excited about it.
It's not as effective as we would have liked.
For sure. The other thing that I wanted to talk about music-wise that I know you're going to have a lot to say about is this announcement of the new Mike Shinoda. Are you excited?
Yeah. Mike Shinoda.
What the hell is taking him so long?
What do you mean?
So
I thought the turnaround was pretty quick.
That's not since the last Mike Shinoda album. I mean, listen.
That's not the same. That's not the conversation I thought you were.
But it's so funny because I went to listen to this and I went to his page and I was like, okay, Mike Shinoda new singles, Mike Shinoda EP that he also just released. Also in Mike Shinoda's on his page is the Fort Minor album.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, it's both.
It's kind of
the Rising Tide is now on the Fort Minor page and the Mike Shinoda page. Yeah,
crazy.
So Mike Shinoda, if you don't know, rapper of Linkin Park. If you're a diehard Linkin Park fan, you probably know Mike Shinoda is a lot more than just the rapper for Linkin Park.
Absolutely.
But the general consensus, if you want to separate Mike and Chester, Mike is the rapper of Linkin Park. Mike Shinoda is my number one musical hero for a lot of reasons.
Number one, Bay?
In music, when it comes to inspiration, yes, absolutely. He's a great rapper. He's a great songwriter. He's a great singer when he gets to sing on Linkin Park. And he can play everything pretty much imaginable. So, and he's a great producer as well. He's a great producer. So we first got wind of this during the Chester Bennington tribute.
Right.
He released a song that he wrote for that occasion, something that he was toying with. And at the concert, he said he didn't know if this was going to be a Linkin Park thing. He didn't know if he was going to record it, if he was going to release it or whatever. He just said that he had wrote it and he performed it. And to my knowledge, I think we saw him. He posted on Instagram that he was working on that song later on in the studio. So I had been hoping that we were going to get a Mike Shinoda project. Here we are. And that's what I was speaking to. I thought you said what's taking so long. I thought you meant the turnaround from that announcement.
It's been a long time since he's had actual music out. I found
because we all expected Fort Minor too, right?
I guess so. I mean, it was so long ago.
It's been like 12 years.
Yeah, it's been a really long time. I think the thing that I was interested. Listen, if we're going to go into like what I'm looking for this project, I want to hear Mike Shinoda rapping. Of course I do, because I think he's a very adept rapper. I think he's a good rapper. He's a fantastic lyricist. And it's just interesting because the genre is as big as it is right now that I would love to see him put a stamp on that. So far, at least judging by the EP and these songs, we're not really getting a lot of that, which I'm fine with too. But the thing that I am just really interested in is that this music aesthetically plays perfectly off of One More Light. The stuff that they were doing on that album, shifting more to a pop sort of sensibility, and you can love that, you can hate that, whatever. Especially the type of pop music that they're doing, which falls in line with Linkin Park, very electronic centric, a lot of EDM and dance music, especially crossover with pop music and EDM. That is sort of what's going on here. I didn't love these new songs, but what I was very impressed with is just how good of a fucking songwriter he is.
He's great.
He's fantastic.
I think people have this impression of Fort Minor. I think people think it's lame.
I only know like 2 songs, and I think both of them are great.
See, someone like Brando, I don't know. I think he would think Fort Minor's lame. He probably does think Fort Minor's lame. I remember people thinking Fort Minor was lame at the time that I loved it.
Linkin Park went through their, I think Linkin Park is lame stage.
Maybe, yeah.
No, for sure they did. I'm about to do.
Well, but okay, you're right.
I'm about to do a sound off episode here soon on our YouTube channel where I talk about nu metal and how so many bands were just lost to the stench that nu metal left behind, and it's actually pretty unfortunate. Things that even today I am still overcoming.
Right.
And yeah, there are definitely some tribulations that I think Linkin Park and Mike Shinoda himself had to overcome just because of their association with that music genre. Not that that music genre is bad. I'm just saying some of the negative connotations that came with it.
Fort Minor at the time, it was sort of a response to Linkin Park. I think he made it a point at the time because he was in nu metal. He was in rock, at the forefront of rock. I think he purposefully looked at Fort Minor and said, hip hop project, right? But one of probably the biggest, if not second biggest single was Where'd You Go?
Yep.
I think that is, that's what we're pulling from. I think we are going to get Where'd You Go type songs, slightly updated. Obviously, there's been a long time. More personal, absolutely, especially because everything seems to be written in response to him losing Chester, where he is in his life right now. I think we are finally, because Fort Minor was hip hop, I think we are going to get much more of an exploration of his musicianship in general. Yeah. And so bringing in the singer-songwriter aspect to Mike Shinoda, all of that.
We already saw some piano playing, a piano ballad on this this single that he released.
That equation, it's everything that I've hoped for in my entire life. Because sometimes when I tell people Mike Shinoda is my musical hero, not everybody knows who Mike Shinoda is.
Right.
So, and then they're wondering, why is the rapper in Linkin Park your musical hero?
And even people that do know probably have a difficult association putting that together.
Again, exactly. So this is what I've been wanting for a long time, and I will probably have some kind of bias because I am such a fan of his. I'm probably going to be more forgiving, and that's the point I was making about Fort Minor is that I probably like Fort Minor more than anything because I love Mike Shinoda, whereas I think maybe a lot of people would look back on that album and think it was kind of lame, maybe dated, absolutely dated. But yeah,
Isn't Jay-Z a feature on that album somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought he was.
To my knowledge, he worked a lot with.
That's Collision Course. Sorry.
Yeah,
just kidding.
He worked Styles of Beyond. He worked with quite a bit on that record and a couple of other artists like Ryu, rappers that honestly I've never even heard of outside of that project. But
Joe Latringer from One Line Drawing and Far. Really random emo band. Anyways, yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited for it. Went through some other random.
That comes out in July, by the way.
Went through some other random music news. Bon Iver debuting some new music. You know how I feel about that.
I think Bon Iver is the most weird thing that you're a fan of.
More like Boner Iver. Anyways, I want to wrap up music discussion by sort of letting you in on a sort of a state of things, and I kind of want to turn into a state of some. I think you want to talk about some movie stuff, but
I don't know that I have movie stuff.
Okay, fair enough. But maybe this can turn into like a state of pop culture stuff this year so far. But first of all, before I do that, next week, so I just dropped my Under Oath album preview on the music show this week. It's available now if you want to listen to it. Their album Erase Me comes out this upcoming Friday, April 6th, I believe. And there's going to be a ton of content coming out around that. I need to figure out exactly what I'm going to do. I think I'll extend it to you. Do you want to review the album together?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll review it together in video form. And then next week on Weekly, we'll do a whole breakdown discussion. Like the review will be the review. We're not going to dive super deep into like what this means and all this stuff. But we will be doing that next week. And hopefully, even if you guys aren't interested in that band, this is one of the few times that I can remember that we've of a band maybe of this level that we've had this much hype and like lead up to, and I feel like we're doing the same thing for music that we do for movies and TV sometimes, and we don't always get that luxury. Like,
you feel that with Under Oath? Because I thought
me
the lead
specifically, I've done like 5 or 6 fucking videos for this shit.
Not since the announcement.
Yeah.
Like, you did those retro reviews earlier in the year.
I did the
but
retro
it wasn't in
reviews.
response to that.
I did the retro reviews. I did the music video reaction / track review, which was a big discussion on the YouTube channel.
I'm just saying,
I did the sound off episode where I did managing your Under Oath expectations.
I guess I'm just saying, I thought the anticipation and the build up to Plotting You was far greater than this.
I did. We didn't do a preview. Didn't do an album preview, which was kind of interesting to do last week on Weekly. Anyways, the thing that I wanted to talk about here. So we're recording this on, what does it say, April 1st. It's
Saturday night, Sunday morning, Easter.
Yeah, it's April Fool's Day. Anyways, that means 1/3 of the year is done, right? A quarter of the year is done.
Yes.
I'm sure in the summer we'll do our halfway point, but a third of the year being gone, it's good for me to take.
No, it's a quarter of the year is gone.
I know, but you're right. Sorry, a quarter of the year is gone. 3 months. You know what I mean? It's good to take the temperature on the pop culture landscape so far. Music for me is a very strange thing because there have been some really good projects that have come out that I can appreciate from like a critical perspective, but there's only like one, maybe 2 albums that I'm like head over heels for, like really, really enjoying. Like that Sampha album last year, I just kept going back to it, loving it. But I've given some A's this year. I think I've given an A+ this year to some things, but I'm not really falling in love with a lot of stuff this year. It's just been a lot of like, yeah, that's good, and move on to the next thing. Endless Heights, I've got an album review coming up for them. Is something that I've fallen head over heels for, in love with. Right now, would probably put it at my album of the year right now. But yeah, man, I'm waiting for more stuff to come out that I can just be super fucking stoked on, like fist pumping, listening to all the time, blasting in my car. I just haven't really had too much of that yet, and I want it.
I don't have a standout as far as who's winning the pop culture crown right now. I think the loser's movies.
Really?
Without a doubt.
See, I would say TV. Well, that's not necessarily true because I haven't really seen many movies. I almost went and saw Ready Player One. Why don't we talk about Ready Player One?
Well, I'm seeing it tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'm going to go see it before I do all my Easter stuff. So I don't really have...
When's a movie show coming back?
I just did one.
You did?
I released it like 2 days ago.
What was it?
The Commentary.
That's not a movie show. That's a commentary.
I don't have a movie show. I put out movie episodes. There's not a movie show.
You had a movie show?
It's not a movie show. It's just episodes of Sight and Sound movies. There was nothing that was ever set in stone. Like, this is my movie show.
You were doing it really consistent for a while.
I've also told you a million times that I had a week break and it messed me up. I've stated that multiple times now.
It can come back.
I just did a 2.5 hour commentary.
Those are commentaries.
Those are movie episodes. My 10 Cloverfield Lane, that's me doing movie content. Chappie, that's me doing movie content. There's no set. It's Sight and Sound movies, not the movie show.
We're slipping on YouTube. I'm not putting up as many videos.
I know. I'm aware of that. Sight and Sound is supposed to primarily be about music.
Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that I recorded 5 videos today.
That's good.
What are the movie reviews?
Jay, I did like fucking 5 in a row. I'm seeing
you did?
all those Oscar movies. I put out so much. I reviewed all those Oscar movies and Mute on Netflix, and then I did an Oscar sound off.
Maybe just don't pay
Jesus
attention.
fucking Christ.
I like Stuckman.
I'm
He's my
seeing
movie
Ready
guy.
Player One tomorrow. Stuckman's bland. I don't know why he has the pace he does.
He's my movie guy.
Get Stuckmanized is nothing. I'm seeing Ready Player One tomorrow. I'll do something for it. I might do a movie show, if you will.
TV wise,
God, I am unbelievably stressed out when it comes to TV coverage. I have no fucking idea what we're going to do because Counterpart was supposed to end
that was
last
so
week.
funny.
Last week. The Legion premiere is falling on the date that we would record the Counterpart finale. It is overlapping, and I am just so lost.
First of all, you do realize that I'm not going to be able to watch Legion the night that it comes on.
It doesn't matter.
I will have to watch it the next day.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Okay. So we can still record the episode
I close.
of Counterpart.
I close.
We talked about this.
Anyway, it's the fact that they are happening at the exact same time when they weren't supposed to.
Westworld.
I am so fucking stressed. Did you watch the Westworld trailer?
I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't either.
So should we do a reaction to it?
Sure. You after this?
Yeah, I can set it up.
I would like to go on. I would like to go on in the podcast early so we can get to that.
So listen, let me just say this about Westworld. Fucking hated the first season.
Did you hate it, or did you just kind of? I feel like
it was such a struggle to watch that show.
It was just kind of nothing.
Yes,
but I didn't hate it. Like I didn't think it was that. I didn't think it was that bad.
I hated that I was continuing to watch it. If it wasn't what it was, I would have.
It's not like how
have the path that shit.
I hated what was the last TV I genuinely hated? The pilot to the Minority Report TV series. I fucking went off on YouTube on that. You can look it up.
This.
Go to Film Beef right now and watch me fucking go ballistic on the Minority Report pilot.
There is a show that exists that's on TV right now that you and I both have a take on that consistently is brought up amongst like people that watch TV. Like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Really good. And every time I hear it, I just roll my eyes and think, because of how bad I hate or how much I hated it, there is no fucking way I'm going back to that. What show am I talking about?
A show we constantly hear is good. That's in.
You'll hear it. You'll hear that it's
in
good.
the general consensus. But
you will hear it. I'm not saying like everybody's like, this show is great.
But you hate it and you don't want to hear from it again? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Twin Peaks?
No, I'm talking like it's on right now.
Hold on.
You've seen some of it too.
Johnny Versace?
No. Sneaky Pete.
I don't think people are talking about Sneaky
There are
Pete.
people that have been like, man,
are there? Who?
The other day, it might have
Collider
been,
TV
it
Talk.
have been on the watch that they were like, man, Sneaky Pete is great. I was like, no, I'm not saying that it's not good, but I gave that pilot a chance and was just like, this is not for me. And listen, I get that they apparently just turned it into a different show. I don't want to. I don't want to watch things on Amazon. I don't want to watch that show. I don't want to see Walter White being...
You better watch Amazon when Jack Ryan comes out.
Fuck no.
What?
No way in hell I'm watching. I do not like
Krasinski. You know what's getting rave reviews right now?
And
Quiet Place.
I'm gonna go see that. One, Jack Ryan and anything that has to do with that character is for old people, and I don't care.
No.
Yes. I don't want to see.
They are clearly updating it to where the character is younger. They have the hottest Jack Ryan by far. Sorry, Chris Pine. I'm sorry. John Krasinski.
Not doing Jack Ryan. I'm protesting it. You're not going to hear me say anything. I'm not going to be a dong. I'm not going to be like.
I think you are, more than anything, you're a dong about TV.
Listen, I'm not going to be. No, my time is precious, just like with
But
movies.
you can't. But you can't ever just watch a
I only
pilot
watch
to
the-
cover it on Sight and Sound.
I only watch
You
the good
never
stuff.
do that.
I only watch the good stuff.
It is. I don't know if you guys
That's why
know
I'm not
this.
watching Jack Ryan.
It was some kind of magic trick that I didn't even realize that I performed, that I got Jay to even start Counterpart, let alone podcast about it.
You know
I cannot
exactly what it was.
believe that happened.
You know what it was?
What?
The premise was great.
Yeah.
And I had heard some buzz that people were saying that it was really good.
Some buzz.
So I got on board with it. I gave the pilot a chance. You know what else I'll watch? Altered Carbon. You know what I don't give a shit about? Somebody doing some political bullshit walking around wearing a hat. I don't care about that.
What's that?
Isn't that what Jack Ryan is? Didn't I see a picture of him wearing a hat?
He's not wearing a hat.
I thought I remembered him wearing a hat.
Anyway, so the Counterpart, at the time that we are recording
That's why I
this,
don't like the Bourne movies. Doesn't he wear a hat sometimes?
No, he doesn't wear a fucking hat. You know who wears a hat? Captain America. When he's in disguise.
Yeah, Captain America.
That was only like one time.
Captain America's kind of boring.
No, he's not.
I don't like just normal people doing
I know.
normal things.
You also don't like period pieces. And a period piece is just, we're not just talking about the olden days.
I don't like living
A
in the
period
past.
piece is just anything before the 2000s. Jay.
Stranger Things, yeah. Stranger Things is an anomaly.
At the time that we are yeah, even though it's just a complete copycat of a million things.
Better than E.T.
At the time that we are recording this, the Counterpart finale has not aired, but by the time that it's released, it has aired. So
It was so funny that I was the one that had to tell you that it had a week off. I literally was like, well, I'm going to sit down and watch.
Because what's the reason?
There really
why would I ever think to look
It
that it
made
would
no
skip
sense.
a week before the finale?
The only reason I can possibly this is like a complete conspiracy theory. Like, I think that they were like, shit, a lot of people got stars just for this. Let's skip a week so that we have to charge them one more month for their subscription.
Maybe. I don't understand. If for those of you who don't know, episode 9 was 2 weeks ago, and they skipped a week before the finale. None of us even knew until it was too late. So now they are brushing right up against the Legion premiere date, which we have an obligation to record Legion because it helps Sight and Sound out tremendously, and it's season 2 of Let's Talk Legion, and we both love the show. So I'm just so stressed to the max. But for those of you who don't know, catch up on Legion because you will start seeing those Legion recaps in the Sight and Sound feed.
It also just looks really cool. Like the stuff I've seen from this season looks fucking
Did you
dope.
see the actor that they have to play the Shadow King? Another actor?
No?
Looks awesome.
Is it John Krasinski?
I wish.
I wouldn't watch.
It looks really great.
Is John Krasinski my Paul Dano?
He undeservedly so. If you're gonna go with that, it makes absolutely no sense. John Krasinski is nothing but likable. Nothing.
I'm not
but
saying that. He's a likable guy.
He's great.
Still don't want to watch Jim in anything anymore.
He was Chris Pratt before Chris Pratt, and I will take
Blaze.
that to the bank.
Blaze.
John Krasinski wasn't fat, but he had a dumb haircut. He was pigeonholed as this guy on TV,
But he
the
wasn't.
hit sitcom, can't do anything else.
You're saying likable?
Comes out, becomes an out. No,
You're comparing likable to lovable.
No, John Krasinski is
I
lovable.
like John Krasinski. I don't love him.
But girls
I love Chris Pratt.
girls love John Krasinski more than they do Chris Pratt, I think.
Ladies love Krasinski.
Girls freak out. Have you heard John Krasinski laugh? It is the most precious thing. It is like
It sounds annoying.
it is just something a puppy would do. It is
Ugh.
beautifully
Ugh.
cute when he laughs.
Ugh.
And he was Chris Pratt before.
You like
John
that?
Krasinski, before Chris Pratt ever thought about being Star-Lord, John Krasinski was considered to be Captain America. And it's just a matter of time before he snatches his own superhero role. That's for damn sure. I said Row, superhero Row.
He'd be a great Silver Surfer.
What if Peter Dinklage is voicing Silver Surfer?
That'd be cool.
Peter Dinklage is probably one of Thanos' thugs, though.
I don't understand that, though. I don't understand how Silver Surfer could be in the movie. Isn't he a Sony property?
Fox.
Is he really Fox?
He's Fox.
How dare you?
Not gonna happen.
No, I mean,
Bitches.
We all know Captain Marvel is going to show up,
Well, yeah.
and I'm fucking hyped.
It's the whole production schedule. Those photos that came out a month ago,
Allegedly from
that wasn't production.
Right.
That wasn't principal photography of our movies. So
right.
So anyway, somebody asked a bullshit question. It was like some article they wrote. The fact that Ronan the Accuser and Korath and Coulson are going to be in her movie, people were like, "Oh, are people worried about Captain Marvel that they're going to?"
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, people were questioning Marvel's faith in the property. They had to support her with the supporting cast.
Sounds like it's going to be
They
badass.
support her with Ronan and Korath? No.
I don't know anything about Korath.
The worst. That's the who? And Guardians of the Galaxy at the very beginning. Digimon.
Oh
Hansu's
yeah,
character.
that guy. So Ronan,
They asked if Marvel was worried about Captain Marvel. They had to cast Korath. Fuck off. Korath is doing nothing for that fucking movie. And neither is Coulson. I don't give a fuck if he's headlining Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nobody gives a shit about Coulson. And if you do, may I ask why?
shut the fuck up.
May I ask why?
You're too loud. I'm sorry.
I backed
I
off
didn't
the
mean
mic.
that. So, are you worried about it?
No.
You know what's funny about Ronan? All this people talking shit about Ronan.
I think he's a good villain.
He was fine.
I was gonna say,
Not only was he just fine,
he's a good villain.
it's not like he was disappointing from so many of the other great Marvel villains. Like,
Right.
he was
good.
on par. I think he looks cool.
I definitely think he served his purpose.
He was non-existent in the movie, but
I thought Lee Pace did a good job with him.
I didn't even know who that was. I had to
Right.
Google what that motherfucker looked like the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, this guy.
He's
Joe?
very distinguished looking, I think.
He looks
Especially
like John
those
Krasinski.
eyebrows.
Looks pretty normal to me.
Especially those eyebrows. He could be James Bond, Lee Pace. But I think he's like in his early 40s now. So I don't know if they go that old.
I might be doing. So I'm catching up. Not even catching up. I'm revisiting some MCU movies. Halfway through Age of Ultron right now. I had a pretty funny take about Civil War when I was thinking about it the other day. I might do one of those anti-review things I was going to do.
What now? On what movie?
On Civil War.
Really?
I'm just going to give part of the take right now. It obviously doesn't do anything for the video.
Here we go.
The take on Civil War is the MCU movies and their villains have been so bad. They just said, fuck it. Let's just make them fight each other. And it was amazing. Like, it was just the villain in Civil War is Daniel Bruhl. The guy's on a TNT show now. Like,
so what?
I'm just saying.
What does that mean?
I'm just saying. Let's just fuck it. Let's just have them fight each other. It'll be great.
Lee Pace was on a TV show.
Yeah, and look at that guy is having to support Captain Marvel now.
At least he's one of the only villains other than like Loki to come back up a second time. That's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. You took it too. You don't get the show. You took it too serious. They're supposed to fight each other.
I know. To set up Infinity War.
The bit is that I didn't know that was the whole premise of the movie.
I get it. I got everything you were doing there.
Okay. All right, let's go. Why are you laughing?
Because we went TV to movies
Actually, we started with a music topic.
But
to politics.
The last two things we did, we just swam through TVs and movies without any actual topic at hand.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, we're pretty fucking good at what we do. In fact, I would say we're great.
I was actually kind of talking down to what we just did, but
oh no, I think it's amazing. I mean, John Krasinski couldn't do it, so
when are you gonna join me for a movie commentary? What's the movie that you would like to do a movie commentary with? So I like
Blade Runner 2049.
Really?
Yes, because I haven't rewatched that since I saw it in the
But
movie
you
theater.
want that long of a movie, something that's not fun to watch.
If I just don't,
it's not fun to watch that movie.
Hold your Snellish tongue.
It's not fun to watch that movie.
It's glorious. First of all,
agreed.
I'll slice you like a fish. I mean, how dare you?
It's
you know
not,
what? Listen,
you don't have fun watching that movie. That doesn't mean it's not a great movie.
Here's the thing. If I do a commentary with you, regardless of what movie it is, if I just stop having fun, I'll probably just leave. Probably just leave in the middle of it. I think it'll be better content that way.
Okay, but why wouldn't you
like,
just? Then why wouldn't you just pick a movie that prevents
great movie commentary? People just coming in and out of it. We need to do an after party movie commentary
where a movie's just on.
Yeah, and it's a bunch of people just talking.
But then it would become too much of a podcast.
Who cares? That's good.
We would get distracted.
That's good.
But then it wouldn't be a movie commentary.
It doesn't matter.
It would just be an
It's
after
the
party.
anti-commentary with a movie on in the background. After parties can be whatever they want.
Right. It would just be an after party.
More people. I guarantee you, more people are listening to your movie commentaries just to hear you talk than giving. I bet people.
That has not been my experience at all, Jay.
I guarantee you, people don't even watch the movie with you when they do it.
I have been. People tell me if they watch the movie in our own group.
How many people?
Several.
Out of how many views and listens?
I think my plays are people who stumble across it and then realize they don't want to do this.
Okay.
Or people that are actually watching the movie. That's all I've ever heard.
What about off of the podcast feed?
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I think most people on the podcast feed, well, I don't know. I think
so. Out of hundreds
the people
of plays,
the people who are engaged in the commentary and watching the movies are doing it via the podcast feed. I think most of the plays on YouTube are people who stumbled across it and realized they don't want to do that. And I think they're just I think they're non-plays.
I think you could say that for most of the podcast content that we do. Honestly.
Yeah.
On YouTube, which is fine. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure people just want to listen to you do a show. Comment below. Would you listen to Ryan Snelling movie commentary without even watching the movie?
I think if I was watching a bad movie and making fun of it,
isn't that the point of the commentary anyways? You're supposed to provide content.
I'm not saying I don't.
You're watching.
I'm not saying I don't value it as content.
No, I know.
I'm still shocked that people do that because I don't listen to commentaries that much. But
right,
and I do them solo.
But if you wanted to listen to a movie commentary, why would you do it?
Do what?
If you listen to a movie commentary, regardless of if it's a podcast, or if it's an actual DVD commentary, why are you listening to it?
Well, you listen to a filmmaker because you want all the inside knowledge, but I'm not providing inside knowledge. I'm just spouting takes.
You're a pundit. But that's why people listen to you, because they want your opinion on specific topics. And if a topic is The Last Jedi, they want to hear you talk about it through the entirety of the movie.
Well, I forgot that Anakin was a Force ghost.
Yeah.
And I went on and on.
Oh, you know what I explained to somebody today? We're supposed to leave like 10 minutes ago. You know what I explained to somebody that was incredibly gratifying?
What?
Han shot first.
Oh, really?
Nobody, this person didn't realize, and they look like George Lucas himself came in, punched them in the dick, and robbed their soul. He was like, "How in the fuck?" He was like, "Why has it?"
Wait, well, hold on. What's the? Where did this person get lost?
There is no lost. They didn't know it was a thing. They didn't know.
So what were they familiar with? Were they familiar with him shooting
first? They knew Greedo shot first from A New Hope.
Okay.
They
So you
didn't know that it was
explained George
yes,
Lucas's alteration.
and showed him the example.
Yes.
And it looked like George Lucas himself came in and said, "Oh, well, that's funny." Punched him in the dick and took his soul, like Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jaye Williams. J to the A to the Y to the E. It's the same for both. Lots of other stuff going on. Music shows, music reviews. 3 album reviews coming out this week. Maybe another one because I need to do the Weeknd. Ryan, when can they hear your movie show?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WhatUpSnell. Again, make sure you're watching Legion with us. Season 1 is in its entirety on Hulu, so be ready for the Season 2 premiere on April 3rd at 10 p.m. on FX. And follow us on Twitch at SightSoundPod. And I'll be tweeting out and sharing links to whatever I end up streaming. Maybe Fortnite. Maybe I'll do some Battlefront 2 this week, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And I will start adding that link into our description. Join the Sight and Sound Facebook group. That link is also in our description next to the Twitch, next to the YouTube, next to the podcast feed, all that good stuff. We love your support, and we'll see you soon.
Not me, your fucking band. Goodbye, I'll see you later. Please support us on Patreon when we launch it. Bye.